Chapter 682. Lin Shuai felt somewhat bewildered. Given Qin Wentian's strength, unless he was heavily injured, it was impossible for him to be in such a weakened state. Something must have happened. However, Qin Wentian didn't seem to mind at all, hence, Lin Shuai didn't probe further. "Wentian, the old ancestor told me to send his regards to you. He won't be coming over personally," Lin Shuai spoke to Qin Wentian. "That's only natural. I'll have to trouble the old ancestor to still be concerned about me." Qin Wentian smiled. Nominally speaking, Qin Wentian no longer had any relationship with the Battle Sword sect. The old ancestor was the previous sect leader of the Battle Sword sect, as well as the vice-sect leader of the Royal Sacred sect. Naturally, it wasn't convenient for him to come over. Lin Shuai and the others could use the excuse of being friends with Qin Wentian to come over. Even if the Royal Sacred sect knew about this, they wouldn't be able to say anything. The experts from the Jiang clan and Thousand Zhu alliance felt their hearts trembling when they heard this. Old ancestor. This young man was already so terrifying. How strong was the old ancestor of their sect? He even personally sent a message to greet Qin Wentian. From this, one could see how highly he regarded Qin Wentian. Seems like Qin Wentian's achievements in the outside world had far surpassed their imaginations. Sister Ling Shuang, foster father wouldn't be absent, right? Qin Wentian turned his gaze to Yi Ling Shuang. Yi Qinyun had instructed Qin Wentian before to invite him no matter what or he would be angry. Naturally, Royal Father will definitely arrive on time. How can Royal Father possibly be absent for the grand wedding between you and Qingqing? Yi Ling Shuang smiled. Royal Father? The hearts of everyone trembled. The Emperor of the Royal Sacred Region, that level was something they couldn't even imagine. Such a character was actually Qin Wentian's foster father. Would he also appear on the day of Qin Wentian's grand wedding? As they thought of this, the Jiang ancestor and the ascendants of the Thousand Zhu alliance exchanged glances as a look of deep meaning flashed in their eyes. Luckily, they didn't choose the wrong side, or that would truly be the end of the world. What was laughable was that the ascendants of Grand Xia actually wanted to surround and kill Qin Wentian. Even if they managed to kill Qin Wentian, the entire Grand Xia would be buried together with him. Luckily, on the day of Qin Wentian's grand wedding, those people would surely be dumbfounded. I wonder what sort of characters Mo Qingqing's master and Qin Wentian's foster father are. I should be able to meet them when the time comes. The Jiang ancestor silently mused. Just as the patriarch of the Jiang family thought, the overlords of the great Xia dynasty were all dumbfounded. Mo Qingqing told the ascendants of the Azure Emperor Palace to lead the experts from the Medicine Sovereign Valley to split into 3 groups and head towards Grand Xia to deliver the invitations. The transcendent powers who received the invitations all felt their hearts trembling with trepidation. For example, the Green Cloud Pavilion. The Green Cloud Sovereign had always sent people to spy on Chu. When the ascendants from the Medicine Sovereign Valley and Old Xing arrived, he was already contemplating if he should flee from Grand Xia or not. Back then, it was him who lured Qin Wentian into the trap set by the Dark Shadow Sovereign. If it wasn't for him, Qin Wentian wouldn't be in such a miserable state and wouldn't be so heavily injured. Most probably, among the people Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing hated the most, the Green Cloud Sovereign was none other than him. He silently cursed the Shi ancestor and the others in his heart. They had already lost the chance to kill Qin Wentian. The situation in Grand Xia could no longer be reversed. Everything was over. His ambitions had also come to an end. In the Green Cloud Pavilion, the Green Cloud Sovereign who had been contemplating for a long time finally made a decision. He wanted to leave, giving up on the entire Green Cloud Pavilion. Although this place contained his ambitions and dreams, he had no choice but to leave now. The possibility of Qin Wentian killing him was very high. Even if he didn't kill him, he wouldn't have any good days ahead of him. The Green Cloud Sovereign was still relatively young and had climbed all the way to where he was today. His ambitions were great and his will was resolute. He had always wanted to kill Qin Wentian and was much more ruthless compared to those old fellows. But now that there was no way to change things, he immediately decided to leave, no longer wanting to be involved in this muddy water. Qin Wentian. The Green Cloud Sovereign felt an intense resentment in his heart. Just when he was about to realize his ambitions, everything changed because of the appearance of Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian killed the Emperor of the Green Cloud Imperial Empire whom he had accepted as his master. Not only that, Qin Wentian didn't show any politeness and even wanted the Green Cloud Sovereign to seek revenge personally. He, a sovereign, had always been suppressed by Qin Wentian and now, he was even about to be driven away. Qin Wentian still had such an outstanding and beautiful wife and was about to get married. He hated Qin Wentian. Even if I leave, I will make sure you feel pain and guilt. The Green Cloud Sovereign's heart turned cold. After which, his perception gushed out, enveloping the entire Green Cloud Pavilion. After which, a voice rang out, "Bring Ling Yu to me." This voice was filled with imposingness and was extremely domineering. Ling Yu was currently under house arrest. When her grandfather heard the cold voice of the Green Cloud Sovereign, he didn't dare to disobey. He knew that right now, the Green Cloud Sovereign was extremely enraged. If he disobeyed, he would most probably die. Very swiftly, he brought Ling Yu to the Green Cloud Sovereign's chambers. Ling Yu stared at the cold and sharp eyes of the Green Cloud Sovereign with a hint of fear in her heart. However, she still bowed and greeted, "I pay my respects to the Sovereign. Accompany me for a chat, the others can leave." The Green Cloud Sovereign waved his hands. Ling Yu's grandfather felt hatred in his heart but he was helpless as well. He glanced at his granddaughter and spoke, "If Ling Yu has done anything to offend the Sovereign, please show mercy." "Didn't you hear my words?" The Green Cloud Sovereign's countenance turned cold as a terrifying intent bore down on him. Ling Yu's grandfather trembled in fear as he replied, "Yes." After speaking, he directly retreated, leaving behind Ling Yu who was even more terrified. "Stand over here, let me see clearly." The Green Cloud Sovereign spoke to Ling Yu. Ling Yu stared at the Green Cloud Sovereign as an intense fear flashed in her eyes. Her heart pounded wildly as she walked towards the Green Cloud Sovereign. "Are you afraid of me?" The Green Cloud Sovereign frowned. "Come closer." "Yes." Ling Yu's body trembled as she stopped 5 meters away from the Green Cloud Sovereign. The Green Cloud Sovereign walked forward, coming to the side of Ling Yu. He circled around Ling Yu's body as he surveyed her. After which, he lifted Ling Yu's chin as his sharp eyes gleamed with an evil light, causing Ling Yu's body to tremble even more violently. "Your figure isn't bad and your looks are top-notch as well." The Green Cloud Sovereign coldly laughed. Ling Yu's countenance instantly paled as she bowed, "Sovereign. Speaking of which, it has been a very long time since I've enjoyed the taste of a woman. You are so young and tender, your taste would surely be excellent. Being able to serve me can be considered your fortune." The Green Cloud Sovereign returned to his seat as he surveyed Ling Yu, "Take off your clothes." "Sovereign, please spare me." With a plop, Ling Yu directly knelt on the ground as her eyes turned red. "What? Are you not willing? Are you looking down on this seat?" The smile on the Green Cloud Sovereign's face turned even colder. "Don't worry, I won't kill you. After you serve me, I will get your family to send you to Qin Wentian and tell him that so what if he is domineering. I will still make him feel guilt and regret. As for the Green Cloud Pavilion, he can just destroy it, what does it have to do with me? Naturally, Qin Wentian can also disregard you. But Mo Feng would definitely hate him." The Green Cloud Sovereign coldly laughed, staring at Ling Yu's trembling petite body. That slender palm was prostrated on the ground, and that curvaceous figure of Ling Yu. Why didn't he know how to enjoy her in the past? "Quickly take off your clothes. If I act, things will be very rough." The Green Cloud Sovereign's voice was ice cold. Vile spawn. Abruptly, a cold voice drifted over. The Green Cloud Sovereign abruptly stood up, his countenance was ice-cold as he coldly asked, "Who is it?" Outside, a white-robed maiden directly walked over. This maiden had a veil on her face and her countenance was ice-cold. A terrifying chill directly enveloped the Green Cloud Sovereign, causing him to feel his soul shuddering. "Lass, everything's fine now." The maiden walked towards Ling Yu and helped her up. Ling Yu stared at the maiden with bewilderment in her eyes. "It's the Holy Maiden who ordered me to come." She and young Master Wentian had long predicted that this man would escape and told me to bring him to the wedding. "If he doesn't cooperate, I will bring his corpse with me." The maiden spoke. Ling Yu threw herself into her arms and started crying. Earlier, she was truly frightened to death. Her purity was almost tainted by the Green Cloud Sovereign. Luckily, Sis Qingcheng and her brother-in-law were still worried about her. "Sis, brother-in-law." Ling Yu wiped her tears. When she thought of the two silhouettes, she felt extremely grateful in her heart. They had always been worried about her. And when the Green Cloud Sovereign heard this, his countenance instantly turned as pale as paper. His palms blasted out explosively as he lunged towards Ling Yu. At the same time, he soared up into the air, wanting to flee. Bzzz. A terrifying wave of ice directly froze the entire chamber. A terrifying frost constellation manifested, freezing everything into ice sculptures. The Green Cloud Sovereign felt his arms freezing as his body stiffened. Qin Wentian. The Green Cloud Sovereign roared in rage. Other than sending the wedding invitation, this man actually sent people to watch over him. Evidently, he was taking special care of him. And just like what he had expected, regardless of Qin Wentian or Mo Qingcheng, neither of them had any intentions of sparing him, the Green Cloud Sovereign. The maiden grabbed out with her hands and abruptly waved them, slamming the body of the Green Cloud Sovereign onto the ground. This maiden was the leader of the Medicine Sovereign Valley this time around and was naturally the strongest. How could the Green Cloud Sovereign stand a chance against her? "If you still don't cooperate, I can only bring your corpse with me." The young lady's voice was as cold as ice. After which, her hand reached out to grab the young man. At the same time, she brought Ling Yu with her as she soared up into the sky, directly descending into the airspace above the clear cloud pavilion. In an instant, the vast clear cloud pavilion could feel the coldness emanating from the young lady. All of them raised their heads, only to see their supreme Zun being held up like a stray dog by the young lady. "That paragon of yours tried to take revenge on young Master Wentian before leaving. The Holy Maiden and young Master Wentian ordered me to capture him, and at the same time, pass down a message to the Green Cloud Pavilion. On account of past sentiments, the Green Cloud Pavilion can choose to submit to the Azure Emperor Palace, or disband. If you choose to disband, you must do so within 3 days. If you choose to submit, 3 days later, you must send a leader to attend the wedding between young Master Wentian and the Holy Maiden." The maiden's voice rang out in the air. After which, she brought the Green Cloud Sovereign and Ling Yu away, leaving behind the dumbfounded crowd. Young Master Wentian and the Holy Maiden, a grand wedding. Evidently, this was referring to Qin Wentian and Mo Qingcheng. Their supreme martial artist was being carried away like a dog. The Green Cloud Pavilion could either submit or disband. Ling Yu is going to be in luck. Many mused in their hearts. The statuses of Qin Wentian and Mo Qingcheng were unimaginably terrifying. Such characters were actually their subordinates. Not only for the Green Cloud Pavilion, the various transcendent powers of Grand Xia all received the wedding invitation. When they saw the arrival of so many experts, they all deeply felt that the sky of Grand Xia was about to change. Chapter 683. In Chu, the Mo clan was extremely lively. The members of the Qin clan had all arrived at the royal capital. Qin Chuan and Old Man Mo would often sit together to discuss the details of Qin Wentian and Mo Qingcheng's wedding. Qin Wentian's friends also arrived one after another. Ouyang and Jiangting, Fan Lu and Xian Xian, Qin Zheng and Yunmengyi, and even Chu Mang had brought along a girl. It was none other than Xian Yan from the Mystic Maiden Palace. This caused Qin Wentian to be somewhat taken aback, but he also reminded Chu Mang that this fellow was extremely envious. Chu Wuwei also came frequently. Firstly, it was to make arrangements. After all, he was the Emperor of Chu, there were many things he could do with a single command. Secondly, it was to treat Chu Wuwei's injuries. Qin Wentian intentionally sought the help of healers from the Medicine Sovereign Valley to treat the problem of Chu Wuwei's inability to cultivate. He discovered that Chu Wuwei actually possessed an extreme aperture. This type of aperture was exceedingly rare. Chu Wuwei's perception towards astral energy was extremely strong, even stronger than Chu Mang's. Hence, he was able to absorb astral energy into his body. However, his aperture had no way to store astral energy, as it would automatically flow away. Every time he tried to absorb astral energy, he would succeed. However, the astral energy would only flow through his body once. In reality, people with extreme apertures were extremely suitable for cultivation. It was just that Chu Wuwei didn't know how to refine apertures. This caused Chu Wuwei to sigh. He initially thought that Chu Wuwei was a martial trash, but who would have thought that he was actually a genius? Unfortunately, he had wasted the most optimal time to cultivate. Now that he was already over 30 years old, it would be extremely difficult for him to accomplish anything great. One could only say that fate made fools of people. Luckily, Chu Wuwei was extremely intelligent and quickly adjusted his state of mind. Compared to being a trash, this was already an extremely good ending. At the very least, he could finally cultivate. As he thought of this, the knot in Chu Wuwei's heart gradually unraveled. He wholeheartedly made arrangements for Qin Wentian's wedding. Qin Wentian and Mo Qingcheng were both extremely leisurely. They would often chat with their friends, or accompany Mo Qingcheng for a stroll around the royal capital. Right now, there was only a day left before Qin Wentian's wedding. The entire royal capital of Chu was in a state of jubilation. Banquets were held everywhere, and the royal army of Chu patrolled the royal capital, setting up banquets in all the inns and inns. All the expenses were borne by the royal clan of Chu. Qin Wentian and Mo Qingcheng strolled around the royal capital, and could only smile bitterly when they saw this scene. This Qin Wentian was truly making a big fuss, as though he was planning a grand wedding. However, Qin Wentian didn't have any intentions of rejecting. After all, it wasn't easy for the two of them to be together. Qin Wentian himself also wanted to give Mo Qingcheng an unforgettable wedding. On the rooftop, Qin Wentian and Mo Qingcheng lay there, enjoying the warmth of the sun. They felt extremely comfortable. There's only one more day. It feels like a dream. Mo Qingcheng and Qin Wentian held hands, both of them could feel the warmth of each other's palms. Bathed in the sunlight, the smile in Mo Qingcheng's eyes was as radiant as the sun. Qin Wentian turned his head, as Mo Qingcheng similarly faced him. Their gazes met, and both of them could feel the intense emotions in the depths of each other's eyes. Is this a sweet dream or a nightmare? Qin Wentian laughed as he asked. Guess. Mo Qingcheng smiled sweetly. Staring at her smiling face, Qin Wentian leaned his head forward as he gently planted a kiss on Mo Qingcheng's lips. The weather is so good. Seems like tomorrow will really be a good day. Qin Wentian rested his hands on his head as he closed his eyes, enjoying the tranquility of this moment. Mo Qingcheng's lips twitched. This fellow changed the topic after taking advantage of her. Smiling, Mo Qingcheng leaned on him, not saying anything as she enjoyed this rare moment of tranquility. A gentle breeze blew past, warming the air. Qin Wentian closed his eyes as he recalled the experiences of the past 10 years. It really felt like a dream. 10 years ago, he was still a young man in the Sky Harmony City, the adopted son of the Qin clan. In a single day, the Bai clan betrayed him, the Yi clan and the royal clan suppressed him, causing the Qin clan to be on the verge of doomsday. It was only because of Teacher Mustang's rescue that he managed to escape. He was abandoned in the wilderness and met Mo Qingcheng and Little Rascal. Sadly, he didn't know that it was Mo Qingcheng who saved him back then. With a heart filled with rage, he came to the royal capital to participate in the academy's examination. There, he met Fan Lo, and for the first time, he saw the number one beauty of Chu, Mo Qingcheng. After that, when he entered the Emperor Star Academy to cultivate, he was provoked by the nobility of the royal capital. Not only that, the most doted-on prince of Chu, Chu Tianjiao, stood in opposition to him, causing him to experience many dangers. Everything seemed to be echoing in his mind. And after that, after the Chu country was stabilized, he headed to the moon continent of Grand Xia, joined the White Deer Institute, studied divine inscriptions, killed Hua Xiaoyun, fled to the Azure continent, entered the unmatched realm to cultivate, participated in the heavenly fate rankings, and so on, all the way to the royal sacred region, seizing the position of the top ranker in the immortal martial realm. And now, he returned to the Chu country where he grew up, wanting to unify Grand Xia. Too many things had happened in these 10+ years, but in the face of the passage of time, everything seemed so fleeting, as though it had happened just yesterday. He thought of the family, friends, and lovers he had met along the way. Holding Mo Qingcheng's hand, Qin Wentian's eyes were still closed, but he felt as though he was looking at the sky. In the air, there was an illusory silhouette that was extremely beautiful. Qin Wentian tried his best to make the silhouette more corporeal, and when he could clearly see her features, Qin Wentian's heart trembled as a sense of heartache welled up in his heart. Qin, I'm going to get married soon. You will definitely give me your blessings, right? Qin Wentian's lips curled up in an arc, as though he was smiling. He thought of that maiden who was always by his side, akin to a snow lotus on a mountain of ice. It had been a very long time since she appeared. Qin Wentian thought back to that day in the Battle Sword sect, when Qin told him that he didn't need her anymore. Everything seemed to have already been decided. The gentle breeze was still blowing, but it was no longer as warm as before. Instead, there were hints of coldness in it, as though it was because of the change in Qin Wentian's state of heart. A warm current flowed from his palms. Qin Wentian sighed as his silhouette in the air gradually vanished. A smile appeared on his face as he did his best to hold on to Mo Qingcheng's dainty hand tightly. It was unknown where the melody of a melody drifted over, causing one to want to fall asleep. Qin Wentian felt somewhat sleepy, and gradually, he fell asleep. In his dreams, a resplendent glow enveloped his surroundings. He saw his astral souls, the Berserk Demon Sovereign Astral Soul, the Heavenly Hammer Astral Soul that was filled with strength, and the tyrannical sharpness of his Sword Astral Soul. His astral souls transformed into motes of light, dissipating in the air. However, there were still countless motes of light revolving around Qin Wentian, appearing in his dreams. Among these motes of light, there was an earthen yellow mote that represented strength, a blood-red mote that represented the berserk nature of demons, and a resplendent white mote that represented swords. The motes of light unceasingly interweaved together, fusing together, transforming into a terrifying energy. This energy circulated in the air, leaving behind scars in the air, as though it could tear apart this illusory dreamscape. A destructive might filled every nook and cranny of this dreamscape. So it can be like this. Qin Wentian woke up from his dreamscape. He opened his eyes, feeling as though he was enlightened. There were many possibilities for the fusion of true intents. Even if it was the same type of true intent, they could still fuse into different types of energy. Qin Wentian had already found a way to fuse true intents. There was no need for him to forcefully fuse them together. Dream force should be all-encompassing, walking the line between reality and illusion. What it needed wasn't necessarily the same as the fusion of illusory demonic energy. Instead, there was another way to fuse true intents. Qingcheng. Qin Wentian called out. Mo Qingqing replied in a gentle voice. Let's return. I think it's time for me to start the evolution of my constellation. Qin Wentian spoke in a low voice, his words causing Mo Qingqing's body to involuntarily tremble. Her beautiful eyes flickered with joy as she stared at Qin Wentian. Seems like tomorrow is really going to be a good day. Mo Qingqing smiled. Since Qin Wentian said that it was possible to evolve his constellation, it would definitely be true. A celestial phenomenon ascendant below the age of 30, even in the royal sacred region, they would definitely tremble in fear. Qin Wentian smiled and nodded his head. In truth, when he comprehended his true intent and stepped into the 9th level of Heavenly Dipper, he could already attempt to break through to celestial phenomenon. However, in the Medicine Sovereign Valley, he had browsed through many ancient records and even personally asked the Medicine Sovereign. He knew that if he wanted to strengthen his constellation, it would be best if he could fuse as many true intents as possible before evolving his constellation. Using a single true intent to form a constellation was the easiest, but it was also the simplest. Only using a single true intent to fuse with an astral soul to form a constellation. Under such circumstances, those who could still form a powerful constellation were as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. The stronger one was, the more resolute their mental fortitude would be. Although after breaking through to celestial phenomenon ascendant, they could still borrow the power of other astral souls to form another constellation, that would already be considered inferior. Qin Wentian wouldn't allow himself to be weaker than others in any aspect. Will there be a chance of failure? Mo Qingqing asked. There was always a chance of failure when breaking through to celestial phenomenon. And once one failed, the consequences would be extremely severe. Hence, many people were extremely cautious when trying to break through to celestial phenomenon. I don't think so. I can faintly sense that I've already gained a hint of comprehension. Breaking through to celestial phenomenon should be a matter of time, and it wouldn't take too long. Qin Wentian smiled as he replied, his tone filled with confidence. That sort of comprehension wouldn't lie. Right. Mo Qingqing nodded. The two of them held hands as they returned to the Mo residence. Mo Qingqing directly summoned the experts from the Medicine Sovereign Valley, telling them to guard the place where Qin Wentian was in closed-door seclusion. No one was to disturb him, regardless of who it was. Seeing how cautious Mo Qingqing was, everyone felt somewhat puzzled. After that, they faintly guessed at a possibility as their hearts trembled. In truth, Qin Wentian initially didn't want to break through immediately. Although he was confident, there might be unexpected occurrences. However, this sort of comprehension was something that happened in an instant. One could say that this was the best time for him to break through. If he missed it, it would be extremely difficult for him to return to this state again. Hence, Qin Wentian didn't hesitate and stepped into the cultivation grounds of the Mo residence, starting his breakthrough. Chapter 684. In the cultivation ground in the backyard of the Mo residence, Qin Wentian sat cross-legged. Around him, Yuan meteor stones could be seen piling up like mountains, exuding a powerful astral energy. These Yuan meteor stones surrounded Qin Wentian within. At this moment, Qin Wentian released his Great Dream Astral Soul and Great Dream Astral Nova. Astral souls were the foundation of celestial phenomenon, while celestial constellations were an extension of astral souls. Any constellation could only be condensed from the astral souls of stellar martial cultivators. Heavenly Dipper sovereigns had 4 astral souls, and after stepping into celestial phenomenon, they could condense a 5th astral soul. This meant that celestial phenomenon ascendants could at most condense a total of 5 constellations. The 5 constellations were all different, formed from 5 different types of astral souls. Some were strong, some were weak, it all depended on the comprehension abilities of stellar martial cultivators. Although this was the case in theory, many stellar martial cultivators only condensed 1 or 2 types of constellations. The reasons for this were all different, some were limited by their own talent. For example, there were many celestial phenomenon ascendants in Grand Xiao. There were also some who considered the speed of their cultivation. They would use their strongest astral soul to condense their constellation, and after stepping into celestial phenomenon, they would be able to condense their fifth astral soul. This astral soul would definitely be stronger than the one they condensed before. Hence, if they used their fifth astral soul to condense their second constellation, it would naturally be even more powerful. Hence, they stopped here, no longer wasting time on condensing their second constellation. There was a very large proportion of celestial phenomenon ascendants who condensed their second constellation. However, it was a waste of time. They felt that even if they continued to condense their first astral soul, they would still be unable to surpass the second constellation they condensed. Naturally, there were also some demon-level characters like Qin Wentian who condensed an extremely powerful astral soul every time they condensed their first astral soul. Not only that, they were proficient in fusing multiple types of true intents, and the constellations they condensed were all extremely powerful. Such existences would naturally be able to condense multiple types of constellations, allowing their strength to grow even more tyrannical. This was also the reason why the disparity between different celestial phenomenon ascendants was so great. And for Qin Wentian, he had the opportunity to condense multiple types of powerful constellations. The first astral soul he chose to form a constellation was none other than his Great Dream's astral soul. The Great Dream astral soul shimmered with a reddish-golden light as it soared upwards, enveloping the astral nova. The surrounding Yuan meteor stones were frenziedly absorbed into the Great Dream astral nova, causing the astral nova to rapidly solidify. The astral nova shone with a resplendent luster, as though it was expanding. If one wanted to become a celestial phenomenon, they had to shatter their astral novas and reconstruct their astral souls, infusing their true intents within to form a constellation. But once they failed, their astral novas would have already been shattered and it would be exceedingly difficult for them to form another constellation. Hence, breaking through to the celestial phenomenon realm was a matter of extreme caution. Once they failed, there was a possibility that they would be stuck at Heavenly Dipper, unable to step past that barrier forever. The might of Grand Dream was unleashed to the extreme, everything was like a dream. In this dreamscape, Qin Wentian himself was immersed in the astral light of the starry skies. He sat cross-legged, surrounded by countless constellations. It was as though there was a boundless amount of astral light cascading down on him, enriching his astral nova. If one wanted to break through to the celestial phenomenon realm, they had to first reach the peak of Heavenly Dipper. If not, before their astral nova matured to the maximum, they wouldn't be able to shatter it and fuse it with their astral souls. After Qin Wentian was injured this time around, the astral energy in his body was almost completely dried up. With the aid of Mo Qingqing's medicinal pills, as well as the recovery of his body, his cultivation base became even more stable. He was already extremely close to the peak of Heavenly Dipper, and this was why he decided to attempt to break through. Time slowly flowed by, Qin Wentian was still in a deep slumber. After a long time, Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath. A thunderous sound rang out, it was as though a constellation had shattered. That astral nova directly exploded as an incomparably resplendent circular ring of light shone resplendently in the starry space. Qin Wentian's astral soul frenziedly absorbed the energy from the explosion as it expanded unceasingly, permeating the starry space. Under the illumination of the constellations, the embryonic form of a constellation could be seen. Qin Wentian knew that the crucial moment had arrived. Numerous particles of true intent appeared in the starry skies. These particles shone with a different luster as they gradually transformed into a vortex, fusing together to form a terrifying destructive might. Gradually, this constellation seemed to contain the power of destruction everywhere. As long as Qin Wentian willed it, he would be able to unleash the might of destruction. Bzzz. Only to see Qin Wentian who was sitting cross-legged in the starry skies waving his hands. Instantly, a long scar of destruction manifested in the form of a sword. In this case, as long as he willed it, his constellation would be able to unleash the power of destruction. It shouldn't be like this. Qin Wentian silently mused. I should continue to evolve it. Dream, it's both real and illusory at the same time. Qin Wentian mused. The energy from the Yuan meteor stones frenziedly flowed into the starry skies, continuing the evolution. Below the starry skies, numerous independent dimensions of destruction appeared, each of them filled with that terrifying energy. Something's wrong. Qin Wentian still hadn't found the feeling of enlightenment he gained earlier. This wasn't the constellation he wanted. Those dimensions of destruction came into contact with each other, clashing against each other, transforming into different constellations. Using the great dream astral soul as the foundation to evolve my constellation, it should be omnipresent. Qin Wentian waved his hand again. In an instant, the starry space seemed to have disappeared. However, that destructive energy seemed to be everywhere. Qin Wentian, who had his eyes closed, had a smile on his face. This was the feeling he felt, this was the enlightenment he gained from this. Molding celestial constellation, condense. Energy gushed forth from Qin Wentian. Astral energy gushed forth in a frenzy, resembling a terrifying vortex that revolved around Qin Wentian, wanting to form his own constellation. Astral souls could be the same, but it was impossible for a constellation to be exactly the same. Even if one comprehended the same true intent, and used the same astral souls to manifest their constellations, because of the differences in their comprehensions, the constellations they manifested would be different as well. They could only be described as similar. Everyone had their own constellation that belonged to them. Qin Wentian finally opened his eyes. In the eastern horizon, a hint of white appeared, causing Qin Wentian to be stunned. The process of him deriving his constellation seemed to have happened in the blink of an eye. But looking at the sky, it was already a different day. Could it be that a few days have passed? As he thought of this, Qin Wentian's perception gushed out as he heaved a sigh of relief. There were many people in the Mo residence who were preparing for the wedding. Seems like today was only the second day, and just like what he had expected, breaking through to celestial phenomenon was a smooth sailing. Celestial phenomenon. There doesn't seem to be any difference, and it isn't that difficult either. Qin Wentian smiled. Although he didn't feel anything special, the weakness he felt earlier seemed to have disappeared. Right now, his spirit, qi, and spirit were brimming with energy, even more so compared to when he was at his peak. It was as though his body contained boundless energy. Such a feeling was too marvelous. Not only so, one of his Yuanfu had changed as well. Within that Yuanfu, there seemed to be a space of its own, no longer a simple pool. Within that Yuanfu, there seemed to be a stretch of starry skies that contained boundless and vigorous astral energy. It was many times stronger compared to before. As to why Qin Wentian felt that breaking through was so easy, it was because before he broke through, he already had a direction in mind. In addition, regardless of his cultivation base or his comprehension of the true intent of his mandate, both had already reached the pinnacle. Hence, to others, the celestial phenomenon realm might be a tribulation that was exceedingly difficult to break through. But to Qin Wentian, when the conditions were right, success would follow naturally. Next, I should be able to condense my fifth constellation and condense my fifth astral soul, forming my fifth Yuanfu. Qin Wentian smiled. He only had a single Yuanfu transformed, and that was the one that corresponded to his great dream's astral soul. The other Yuanfu were still the same as before. It was as though he was born to condense multiple constellations, allowing each of his Yuanfu to transform. It's just that I was too focused on breaking through to celestial phenomenon that I didn't even consider what astral soul I should choose for my fifth astral soul. Qin Wentian murmured. Not only that, when Di Tian broke through in the future, he could choose a different fifth astral soul. They could walk on different paths of cultivation. Qin Wentian didn't wish for Di Tian to be the same as him. He hoped that Di Tian would be able to walk on a different path. MHM. At this moment, Qin Wentian seemed to have realized something as he laughed involuntarily. So it turned out that the mountain of Yuan meteor stones he prepared for breaking through to celestial phenomenon had all been used up. Upon thinking of this, Qin Wentian wiped the sweat off his forehead. Was it just right? How dangerous, why was the consumption rate so terrifying? He had read through the ancient records and knew how many Yuan meteor stones were required to break through to celestial phenomenon. In fact, he had prepared several times the amount in order to prevent any unexpected changes. Yet, he didn't expect that he would still use up all his Yuan meteor stones. The consumption rate was simply too terrifying. Most probably, even those at the peak of Heavenly Dipper wouldn't be able to afford such a price. Standing up, Qin Wentian walked out. Those from the Medicine Sovereign Valley were all standing guard outside. Upon seeing Qin Wentian's appearance, their gazes instantly landed on Qin Wentian, as though they were contemplating him. Right now, Qin Wentian looked extremely ordinary. A faint smile could be seen on his handsome face, and there wasn't the slightest bit of aura leaking out from him. This caused them to feel a sense of unfathomability. Did he break through or not? The commotion caused yesterday was truly too great. Many thanks to everyone. Qin Wentian smiled gently to everyone. Everyone smiled and nodded in acknowledgement. Today is the wedding day of the Holy Maiden and young Master Wentian. Let us first offer our congratulations. The maidens from the Medicine Sovereign Valley smiled at Qin Wentian. This immortal couple that even the entire royal sacred region was envious of, was finally going to be husband and wife. Many thanks, I'll go look for Qingqing now. Qin Wentian smiled. His silhouette flickered as he appeared outside Mo Qingqing's room. Mo Qingqing didn't rest at all, she was sitting in the courtyard. When Qin Wentian appeared, her gaze landed on him as a smile of happiness appeared on her face. This day had finally arrived. You don't want to put on makeup? Qin Wentian smiled as he asked. I don't like it. Mo Qingqing gently replied. Qin Wentian nodded his head, that's fine as well. You no longer need any embellishments. The truest you is also the most beautiful you. Mo Qingqing walked to the side of Qin Wentian and held his hand. After which, she stared at the rising sun and pointed to it as she shouted, from today onwards, I want to hold your hand as we watch the sunrise and sunset together. I will never let you go in this lifetime. Warmth flowed through Qin Wentian's heart. He tightly held on to Mo Qingqing's hand as he smiled, you stole my line, in that case, I'll treat it as you've said it before. Qin Wentian, you are not allowed to shake my hand away, okay? Mo Qingqing shouted loudly towards the sun. At this moment, she was no longer as cold as ice, no longer as pure and holy as a celestial maiden. She was just a pure and innocent young girl chasing after her love. Chapter 685. Today in the royal capital of Chu, there was bound to be no peace. Many people didn't sleep the entire night, waiting for the arrival of the wedding. When the sun rose, the area outside the Emperor Star Academy was already filled with people. In an instant it was as though the entire Chu country had come to the Emperor Star Academy to spectate the wedding. This Chu Academy, which had a history of thousands of years, was the embodiment of the dreams of countless people. Today, because of a wedding, it had ushered in a different kind of glory. Bright red carpets covered the entire Emperor Star Academy, and flowers of various colors decorated the entire academy, giving it a different flavor. These were all done spontaneously by the students of the Emperor Star Academy. They placed flowers all over the Emperor Star Academy, sending their sincerest blessings to their seniors. As Qin Wentian's name resounded throughout the world, there was naturally no one in the Emperor Star Academy who didn't know of him. If it wasn't for this senior apprentice brother, the Emperor Star Academy wouldn't have the glory it had today. Qin Wentian had even surpassed the founder of the Emperor Star Academy, becoming a symbol of the Emperor Star Academy, a living totem. Even many years ago, when the people of the Emperor Star Academy mentioned Qin Wentian, they would still speak of him with pride. He was a young man who had once walked out of the academy, leading the Chu country to topple Grand Xiao, becoming one of the most dazzling characters in the history of Grand Xiao. Now, the place where Qin Wentian stayed in the Emperor Star Academy had already become the symbol of the Emperor Star Academy. At this moment, within the academy, the young boys and girls were filled with longing, as expressions of hope could be seen in their eyes. Some of them couldn't wait to see the legendary senior apprentice brother of theirs. In the hearts of every youth, they all had the dream of becoming a hero. They also hoped that one day, they would be able to achieve such glory, becoming the center of attention of tens of thousands of people, marrying the goddess of their hearts, just like Qin Wentian. Every young girl hoped to have a romantic wedding, where the man they loved would be a hero, marrying them in a grand fashion. Senior brother Wentian and senior sister Qingqing, their wedding is too perfect. If I could have such a moment, I would have no regrets in this life. A young girl murmured, as a look of blessings appeared on her face. Stop dreaming. To us, the Emperor of the Green Cloud Imperial Empire was an unreachable character, yet he was slain by a single sword strike from senior brother Wentian. The Green Cloud Sovereign was a lofty existence, yet he didn't even have the courage to fight against senior brother Wentian. He could only hire an expert to assassinate him. As for those transcendent powers of Grand Xiao, they are all legendary existences. They actually came to Chu together just to deal with senior brother Wentian. However, senior brother Wentian stood in the air and domineeringly slayed two of the transcendent powers, scaring everyone away. The young girl beside him had a look of respect on her face as she teased, not to mention, with your looks, how can you be compared to senior sister Qingqing? She's a beauty that only appears once every 10,000 years in our Chu country. Even I'm slightly inferior, narcissist, go to hell. A scolding voice drifted over, as the laughter of the young girl resounded throughout every corner of the academy. On the stage of the Emperor Star Academy, there were many elders seated there. The headmaster of the academy, Dai, Qin Wentian's teacher, Mustang, the Emperor of Chu, Chu Wuwei, Qin Chuan and his wife, old Mo of the Mo clan, Mo Qingqing's parents, Mo Qingqing's maternal grandfather, old Gu. All of them were the elders of Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing. At this moment, on their faces, smiles could be seen. Happiness, gratification, they were truly happy for the newlyweds. Back then when I first saw that little fellow, I already knew that he would have a bright future ahead of him. But who would have thought that he would have such a bright future? Old Gu laughed. After which, he glanced at his disciple, Mustang, as he stated, "Brat, you have good judgment. No wonder you are my disciple. Master has taught me well." Mustang smiled as he replied. Old Gu nodded his head in satisfaction. Dai, who was at the side, glanced at old Gu as he stated, "Don't be so cocky. Don't try to take advantage of your seniority in front of Mustang. He is the true master of Qin Wentian. Headmaster, but I'm also the true ancestor of Qin Wentian. Not only that, I'm also Qingqing's maternal grandfather." Old Gu's beard fluttered in the wind as he seriously stated, causing the people around him to burst out laughing. Fine, your seniority is higher." Dai was also amused by old Gu. He shook his head with a smile, but when he thought about it, it felt like a dream. Back then, when Qin Wentian inherited the legacy of the Azure Emperor, he had high hopes for Qin Wentian. But who would have thought that in just a short span of 10 years, Qin Wentian would have such achievements today? Not only that, he had already reached a height that the Azure Emperor couldn't reach back then, and was about to complete the long-cherished wish of the Azure Emperor. Why aren't the two little fellows here yet? Everyone is impatiently waiting to see them. Old Mo was also very happy today. He had already forgotten all the unhappiness in the past. Just take it that he was muddle-headed back then. They're here. Seems like the groom can't wait any longer. The gazes of the crowd turned over, only to see a group of silhouettes flying over from afar. On the left and right, Fairy Qing Mei, Old Xing and a few other experts were standing guard. Qin Wentian was in the middle, and beside him, Ouyang Guangsheng, Fatty Fan Lu, Chu Mang, Qin Zheng, Mu Feng, Lin Shuai, Ji Feishue and the others were all present. Their handsome faces caused the screams of the girls in the Emperor Star Academy. Everyone around Qin Wentian was an unrivaled character in the entire Chu country. Not only that, all of them exuded such an aura. Especially that Lin Shuai, he was so handsome. I've never seen him before, but it seems like he's someone from the same sect as Qin Wentian and is even a senior apprentice brother. Qin Wentian's silhouette arrived at the ceremonial stage. Fairy Qing Mei and the rest automatically stood at the four corners of the stage. Today, they were willing to take on the role of protectors. Although they could be considered elders of Qin Wentian, they were still Qin Wentian's subordinates in name. They didn't want to overstep the boundaries of etiquette, they only wanted to be the witnesses of a legendary event. Wentian, I'm already waiting anxiously for the bride. Old Gu laughed as he teased. Today, Qin Wentian was clad in a scholarly white robe. It was simple, clean, and didn't have too many adornments on it. Coupled with his handsome countenance, he was like a scholar, filled with vigor. His pair of black eyes seemed to contain a boundless brilliance, capable of causing young girls to be mesmerized. Arg! I want to marry senior brother Qin too. A shrill voice rang out, causing the entire space to fall silent. The gazes of the crowd turned to the source of the voice, only to see a young girl about 17 to 18 years of age standing in the middle of the crowd. Her hands were cupping her face as she stared at Qin Wentian with a love-struck look on her face. That young girl was currently immersed in her own world when she suddenly felt the world turning silent. A strange expression involuntarily appeared on her face, and when she discovered that countless gazes were on her, her face instantly turned red. She screamed and covered her face with her hands, wanting nothing more than to find a hole to bury herself in. After which, the entire academy erupted into laughter. Su Ning, you are going to be famous soon. Ha ha ha. A female voice drifted out, as though she was intentionally playing a prank by saying the name of the young girl. Yet another wave of laughter rang out. Su Ning, this young girl was really going to be famous, at least in the Emperor Star Academy. But at this moment, the entire space turned silent once more. The gazes of the crowd shifted in a different direction, only to see a group of maidens walking over. The person in the middle was none other than the bride, Mo Qingqing. Today, although Mo Qingqing didn't put on makeup, she was still clad in a red gown, accentuating her flawless countenance. She was like a fresh flower blooming in the most beautiful season. Her resplendent eyes, swan-like neck, snow-white skin, breathtaking curves, and flawless countenance. The Mo Qingqing today was as though she had stunned the entire world. At this moment, regardless of male or female, no one was able to shift their gazes away. Their eyes were filled with pure admiration, admiring the blissful smile on the bride's face as she stared at the young man on the ceremonial stage. She gracefully walked towards him step by step. Who? Only when Mo Qingqing landed on the ceremonial stage did the crowd draw in a deep breath. As they regained their senses, they stared at the maidens beside Mo Qingqing. The voluptuous Luo Huan, the ice-cold Yun Mengyi, the cold and elegant Lu Bingyu, the elegant Jiang Ting, the pure and innocent Bai Lu Yi, the slender and elegant Qin Yao, and the fairy-like Xian Xian. Every single one of them, even if they appeared alone, would be incomparably stunning. At this moment, all of them were standing beside Mo Qingqing, as though they were willing to be the supporting leaves. Too beautiful, I've never thought that I would be able to see such a lineup. The hearts of countless males felt an intense stimulation. As long as they could marry any of the maidens on the stage, they were willing to give up everything. This is truly, many people were speechless, not knowing what to say. Below the ceremonial stage, there were also many of Qin Wentian's kin and friends, as well as those from the Qin residence and Mo residence. Immortal Drunken Wine, Mu Rou, by Qingsong, Autumn Snow and the rest. At this moment, the expressions on their faces were all filled with sincerity. The rims of Mu Ro's eyes were slightly red. She did not know what she was feeling. She was moved, but she also felt an indescribable sadness. She also wanted to become the most dazzling bride, but she was destined to only be able to watch from below, to witness his glory. The only thing she could do was to silently send her blessings in her heart. Gong Hong and Qian Mengyu also came. They came here together with those from the Green Cloud Pavilion. Naturally, the Green Cloud Pavilion wasn't willing to disband, they were willing to submit. Gong Hong laughed as he stared at this immortal couple, while Qian Mengyu had a complicated look in her eyes. Little lass Qing, your Wentian Gige is getting married today. If you could see it, you would definitely be very happy, right? How are you now? Bai Qingsong murmured, he still missed Bai Qing. He still remembered back then when Bai Qing fell out with him because of Qin Wentian and Bai Qing's relationship was so good. If you were here, you would also stand beside Imo Qingqing, watching over your Wentian Gige, right? Bai Qingsong laughed, while Autumn Snow, who was beside him, had tears streaming down her cheeks. If Bai Qing was here, would she be standing beside Imo Qingqing? If she hadn't done all those things back then, would the position Imo Qingqing was in now be hers? Don't cry lass, today is a happy day. Bai Qingsong silently gave his blessings as he stared at the newlyweds. Autumn Snow wiped away her tears as she heavily nodded her head. Chapter 686. Qin Wentian and Imo Qingqing stood on the ceremonial stage, facing each other. Radiant smiles could be seen in their eyes as they held hands, facing the people of the world. Wentian, shall we begin? Qin Chuan, who was seated on the main seat, asked. Let's wait a little longer. Qin Wentian smiled, there were still many people who hadn't arrived yet. And indeed, at this moment, several silhouettes soared through the air as they flew over. Rows of silhouettes could be seen, there were actually more than 10 groups of people, and all of them seemed to be from different powers. They soared through the air, exuding an extremely powerful aura. But even so, when they arrived at the red carpet, they still descended from the air and shouted. The Venerate Heavens sect of Ginkgo of Grand Xia is here to offer our congratulations. The Shi clan of Ginkgo of Grand Xia is here to offer our congratulations. The Hua clan of Grand Xia is here to offer our congratulations. The Sword Extinction sect of Grand Xia is here to offer our congratulations. The Grand Xia Empire, voices rang out unceasingly, reverberating through the air, shaking the entire Emperor Star Academy and even causing the entire royal capital of Chu to tremble. The transcendent powers of Grand Xia had arrived. Only to see several silhouettes walking along the red carpet, arriving at a location not far away from the ceremonial stage. Their gazes were fixed on the figure on the ceremonial stage. It was none other than that handsome young man, Qin Wentian, who hadn't even reached the age of 30 this year. He had already suppressed the transcendent powers of Grand Xia to the point where they couldn't even stand a foothold in Grand Xia unless they submitted. Qin Wentian stood on the ceremonial stage, sweeping his gaze over to the crowd. He then took a step forward and smiled. Wentian is extremely gratified that all the seniors of Grand Xia are willing to come. Everyone coldly laughed in their hearts, but they wouldn't reveal their thoughts. Old man Tianji laughed as he stared at Qin Wentian. Back then, he had already foreseen the rise of the demonic star, causing the skies of Grand Xia to change. After that, on the battle platform of the heavenly fate rankings, he guessed that the demonic star was none other than Qin Wentian. Not too long later, everything came true. Most probably, no one would be able to obstruct the unification of Grand Xia. Since sect leader Qin has invited us, we naturally came. It's just that back then when we heard sect leader Qin wanted to announce how to deal with us during the wedding ceremony, we didn't dare to agree. Although we don't have sect leader Qin's talent, we are still the leaders of our respective clans and sects in Grand Xia. It's impossible for us to live under someone else's roof. If sect leader Qin has something to say, you better make it clear today. The countenance of the Shi clan's ancestor sharpened. The number of people who came this time around was even more compared to the time when they tried to assassinate Qin Wentian. Other than those powers who were willing to follow Qin Wentian, the ascendants of the other transcendent powers were all here. Qin Wentian had already sent out invitations to all the transcendent powers. This meant that no one would be able to escape this calamity. Qin Wentian's meaning was very simple. Follow the flow of events, no one would be able to escape unscathed. Qin Wentian stared at the Shi clan's ancestor as his countenance gradually turned sharp. He swept his gaze over to the other transcendent powers only to see that they were all staring at him with confidence in their eyes. This caused a playful expression to appear on Qin Wentian's face. Seems like the transcendent powers of Grand Xia haven't given up all hope yet. Obey the heaven's will. From now onwards, the Azure Emperor Palace shall control Grand Xia, becoming the Emperor of Grand Xia. All the other powers shall submit to us. Qin Wentian's words were cold, his voice sweeping through the heavens and earth. When those ascendants stared at Qin Wentian's eyes, their hearts trembled. They could faintly sense that Qin Wentian was even more terrifying than before. Those eyes of his seemed to be able to pierce through their hearts, causing fear to rise in their hearts. Qin Wentian, are you sure you want to do this? The Wang ancestor coldly spoke. Their Wang clan was unrivaled under the heavens in the war continent, there were no other powers that could contend against them. How could they endure being a subject of the Azure Emperor Palace? From now on, the Azure Emperor Palace of Grand Xia would confer him the title of king, and they would become his subjects. The hearts of those from the Emperor Star Academy trembled. Although they had heard many rumors, it was a completely different matter to personally witness Qin Wentian's might. Even when facing the hegemons of Grand Xia, he was still so domineering. Today, all of you should be here, right? Qin Wentian said coldly. The countenances of the ascendants froze, they didn't know what Qin Wentian meant by this. Back then, I have yet to settle the debt of you assassinating me. I wish to unify Grand Xia, but I don't wish to weaken the strength of the Grand Xia Empire. But since all of you insist on going about things the wrong way, I will give you two choices. Do you want us to handle the matters of Grand Xia ourselves, or do you want the experts of the royal sacred region to interfere? Qin Wentian stared at the ascendants as he continued, if you all want to handle it yourselves, I won't borrow the experts of the royal sacred region to settle this. But if you all want to borrow external help, I don't mind either. Tell me, which choice do you all want? MHM. The ascendants furrowed their brows. Wasn't Qin Wentian heavily injured? Why was he still so confident? Hearing the arrogance in his tone, it was as though Qin Wentian knew where their confidence came from. And no matter what, Qin Wentian had absolute confidence that they could choose freely. When these ascendants came, they were filled with confidence. But after the words of Qin Wentian rang out, they were all stunned into silence. None of them dared to reply. I don't mind the unification of Grand Xia. The Venerate Heavens sect will stand aloof from worldly affairs and ignore the conflicts in Grand Xia. If the Azure Emperor Palace controls Grand Xia, my Venerate Heavens sect is also willing to submit. I only hope that sect leader Qin won't allow my Venerate Heavens sect to be embroiled in disputes. Old man Tianji slowly spoke, his words causing the countenances of those ascendants to turn incredibly unsightly. The Venerate Heavens sect was one of the strongest powers in Grand Xia, yet they actually took the initiative to back down. Fine, after Grand Xia is unified, the Azure Emperor Palace will control the Venerate Heavens sect. The Venerate Heavens sect will be the place to nurture the talents of Grand Xia. Not only that, it will still be the same as before, managing the heavenly fate rankings. Senior, are you willing? Qin Wentian stared at old man Tianji as he spoke. That would naturally be for the best. Old man Tianji laughed. The Venerate Heavens sect was indeed suitable to handle this matter. Qin Wentian nodded his head to old man Tianji. The Venerate Heavens sect had never participated in any conflicts with him before, he naturally wouldn't make things difficult for them. The countenances of the other ascendants grew incredibly unsightly. The Venerate Heavens sect had already submitted, but what would happen if they submitted to Qin Wentian? Most probably, they wouldn't have such an opportunity anymore. There were still the Thousand Ju Alliance, Jiang Clan and Mystic Moon sect before them. Since you guys aren't willing to express your stance, let's do it according to my rules. The transcendent powers of Grand Xia have all arrived. From today onwards, the Azure Emperor Palace shall control Grand Xia. Is there anyone who isn't willing? Qin Wentian swept his gaze over the crowd, staring at them. The countenances of those ascendants grew incredibly unsightly to behold. The Wang ancestor spoke, none of us will agree. The Azure Emperor Palace doesn't have the qualifications to govern Grand Xia. Qin Wentian walked down the ceremonial stage, moving step by step towards the Wang ancestor. The entire space turned sluggish, the gazes of everyone were all on Qin Wentian. It was rumored that some time ago, when the ascendants wanted to kill Qin Wentian, he had once frightened them into retreating. That scene seemed to be happening again. Also, back then, Qin Wentian was heavily injured but this time around, he was filled with vigor and vitality. The ascendants involuntarily retreated a few steps, they could only watch as Qin Wentian walked towards the Wang ancestor. There were so many ascendants in the surroundings, yet no one dared to act against Qin Wentian. Are you not willing? Qin Wentian stood above the Wang ancestor, his countenance incomparably cold. Yes, we are all not willing. The Wang ancestor stared at Qin Wentian. The other ascendants also walked towards him. This time around, it was as though they wanted to advance and retreat together. Very well. Qin Wentian's voice was ice cold. An eye appeared in the center of his brows. With just a single glance, the Wang ancestor felt as though he had entered a dream. In this place, he was the only one facing Qin Wentian, there was no one else. This isn't the first time you provoked me. Earlier, you used my clan members to threaten me and I have yet to settle the score with you. Now, you want to stick your neck out. Since this is the case, I shall grant you your wish today. Qin Wentian's voice rang out in the ears of the Wang ancestor. After which, a terrifying destructive might gushed towards him. The Wang ancestor stabbed his finger towards the center of his brows, wanting to break free from the dreamscape. However, he discovered that even with his will, he had no way to break free. You broke through. The countenance of the Wang ancestor turned pale. Qin Wentian activated the dreamscape and he couldn't break free. This meant that Qin Wentian's dream will had already surpassed the strength of his will, causing him to be unable to break free. Yes. Qin Wentian admitted. The countenance of the Wang ancestor turned ashen. The Wang clan of the War Continent is finished. Qin Wentian waved his palms. This palm imprint was incomparably resplendent, blotting out the sun. It was akin to a constellation descending upon the Wang ancestor, as a storm of destruction ravaged the area. There was simply no way for the Wang ancestor to evade. This caused the Wang ancestor to despair. After his breakthrough, Qin Wentian had no way to defend against it. Bang! The Wang ancestor didn't even have the chance to resist. He was directly slain by Qin Wentian, turning into ashes, not even leaving a trace behind. The entire Emperor Star Academy was silent. They all stared at this strange scene. The Wang ancestor didn't even have the chance to resist. They only saw Qin Wentian killing the Wang ancestor with a single palm strike. That palm strike seemed to contain some sort of magical power. The countenances of the various ascendants paled. They were all silently musing in their hearts, why hasn't Qin Wentian appeared yet? Is there anyone else who is unconvinced? Qin Wentian stared down at the crowd, his voice as domineering as ever. At this moment, Qin Wentian abruptly inclined his head, staring at the horizons. Qin Wentian, aren't you too arrogant? An arrogant voice drifted over. Qin Wentian's lips curled up in an incomparably cold smile, akin to the edge of a blade. Finally, he appeared. He had been waiting for this moment for a long time. There weren't many people who paid attention to the situation in Grand Xia, but Jun Yu was one of them. The news of the Pill Emperor Hall being destroyed couldn't be hidden from him. Today, he came here. Naturally, he wasn't alone. Beside Jun Yu, there were many experts. When they stared at Qin Wentian, their gazes were filled with flames of anger, as well as extreme coldness. You came. Qin Wentian stared at Jun Yu. He wasn't surprised at all. This morning, he had already received the news from the medicine sovereign, and this news was extremely fascinating. Back then in the royal sacred sect, the sacred emperor had told them to settle this themselves. What status did the sacred emperor have? It was impossible for him to go back on his words. Xia Sheng's death was due to his incompetence. Why would he care about the life and death of a mere disciple of the royal sacred sect? But even if the sacred emperor didn't care, it didn't mean that as the hegemonic powers of the royal sacred sect, they wouldn't care about being smacked in the face by Qin Wentian. Not only that, after Qin Wentian left, there was a female who threatened the royal sacred sect. There had to be an explanation for this matter. Qin Wentian, let me tell you a piece of news. The medicine sovereign won't be able to attend your wedding today. Jun Yu stared at Qin Wentian. I know. Qin Wentian's countenance was extremely calm. The medicine sovereign had already stated clearly that there were experts from the royal sacred sect stationed outside the medicine sovereign valley. They didn't want to do anything, nor did they want to give the medicine sovereign an excuse to act. They only had a single goal, and that was to prevent the medicine sovereign from leaving the medicine sovereign valley. Jun Yu furrowed his brows. Did Qin Wentian know about this? Did the medicine sovereign inform him? But why did he still dare to be so confident? This time around, their lineup was extremely powerful. Even the human emperor of Yi Qingyun, was included in their plans. Tap, tap, tap. At this moment, a crisp sound drifted over from the carpet. It seemed to be the sound of a walking stick. The crowd felt somewhat bewildered as they turned their gazes over, only to see a cripple walking over. Qin Wentian also turned his gaze in that direction. At the instant he saw that silhouette, his heart pounded violently, as though he had been struck by lightning. After which, his eyes turned bloodshot as he stared fixedly at the silhouette that had just arrived. Chapter 687. Qin Chuan also saw that silhouette. He abruptly stood up and stared at the newcomer, causing the people around him to have strange expressions on their faces. Who was this cripple exactly? To think that he could cause such a huge reaction from both Qin Wentian and Qin Chuan. Uncle Black. Beside Imo Qincheng, Qin Yao mumbled in a low voice. Uncle Black was actually still alive. He even came to attend Qin Wentian's wedding. Seems like Uncle Black had always been concerned about Qin Wentian. Clack, clack, clack. The melodious sounds rang out as Uncle Black walked towards the ceremonial stage step by step. Fairy Qin Mei and the rest wanted to stop him, but when they turned their heads and glanced at Qin Wentian, and upon seeing the expression on Qin Wentian's face, they knew that they couldn't stop this cripple. Only to see that the cripple actually walked up the ceremonial stage. The people in this space all quietly watched him, and nobody tried to stop him. It was very strange, but the sound of his walking stick seemed to have some sort of magical power, causing people to involuntarily listen attentively. Uncle Black walked up the ceremonial stage, and walked in front of Qin Wentian. His calloused hands gently caressed Qin Wentian's face. That solemn face in Qin Wentian's memories finally revealed a warm smile of concern. Qin Wentian also smiled, his smile resembling that of a child, extremely radiant. This scene caused people to be even more bewildered. The relationship between this cripple and Qin Wentian seemed to be so intimate that it surpassed the imaginations of others. If not, there was no way he would act so intimately, and Qin Wentian was still smiling foolishly. You've grown up, and are becoming more and more like your father. Why are you still so childish? Uncle Black lightly caressed Qin Wentian's face. Staring at the handsome countenance in front of him, lines of wrinkles appeared on his smiling face. Qin Wentian's heart trembled. He had many words he wanted to say, but he didn't know where to start. It's so good to see your big day. Seeing the two of you is like seeing your parents. Uncle Black pulled on Qin Wentian's hand as they walked to the side of Mo Qingqing. Staring at Mo Qingqing, a look of satisfaction could be seen in Uncle Black's eyes as he smiled. Lass, not bad, you are a good match for each other. Mo Qingqing had never met Uncle Black before, but from the interactions between him and Qin Wentian, she could tell that the relationship between the two of them was extremely intimate. Qingqing, this is Uncle Black. He took care of me since I was young. Qin Wentian laughed. Only now did Mo Qingqing understand the relationship between the two of them. She then bowed to Uncle Black. Qingqing pays her respects to Uncle Black. Good, good. For your wedding, I don't have anything worthy to give you. It's just that in the past, Qin Wentian's mother prepared a gift for her future daughter-in-law. Today, I'll give it to you on behalf of Madam. Uncle Black smiled. After which, he put down his walking stick and stretched his hands out. Instantly, a gift box appeared in his hands. Just this gift box alone was already glowing with a brilliant light, indicating that it was extremely valuable. Open it, this gift was left for you by Mrs. Qin. I've been keeping it safe for her. You have to accept it no matter what. Uncle Black solemnly spoke. Mo Qingqing nodded her head. She naturally knew that Qin Wentian was only an adopted son of the Qin clan. Uncle Black was the person who took care of Qin Wentian since he was young. In that case, it was only natural that Uncle Black was acquainted with Qin Wentian's biological parents. This gift was given to her by Qin Wentian's mother, how could she not accept it? Stretching out her hands, Mo Qingqing solemnly opened the gift box. Instantly, a resplendent beam of light shot out, resplendent and resplendent. It was as though a multicolored radiance was being released from within, incomparably dazzling. Mo Qingqing closed her eyes, and when she opened them, she saw an incomparably resplendent phoenix robe within. It was as though it was woven from the feathers of a phoenix, incomparably dazzling. How beautiful! Mo Qingqing sighed in admiration as she stared at the phoenix robe. Qin Wentian felt so moved in his heart, his eyes turning red. He had even forgotten about the invading enemies. At this moment, in his eyes, there was only the gift his mother had prepared for Qingqing. This was the first time in his 28 years of life that he truly felt the care and concern of his biological mother. It was as though no matter where she was, she would always be concerned about him. Qingqing, try it on. Qin Wentian smiled as he looked at Mo Qingqing. Mo Qingqing nodded her head, as she took the phoenix robe and wore it. The instant the phoenix robe landed on Mo Qingqing's body, a resplendent glow permeated the air. There was no wind, but the phoenix robe fluttered by itself. The resplendent glow enveloped Mo Qingqing, and at this moment, it was as though there was a formless energy supporting Mo Qingqing's body, as a powerful will flowed into her mind. Mo Qingqing closed her eyes, as the phoenix robe fluttered in the wind. At this moment, she was even more beautiful than before, inviolable. How beautiful! Many in the crowd exclaimed in their hearts. Mo Qingqing's countenance and the phoenix robe were a perfect match. An instant later, Mo Qingqing opened her eyes, as a strange glow flickered within. After which, she murmured in a low voice, "Mother, thank you." As the sound of her voice faded, the phoenix robe transformed into a blur. Every inch of the robe was tightly fitted to Mo Qingqing's body, as though it was specially made for her. With an intention of her will, a pair of resplendent phoenix wings appeared on the robe, flapping gently in the air. At this instant, Mo Qingqing was like a descendant of the ancient phoenix, like a noble princess. This caused a thought to appear in the minds of the crowd. Could it be that this phoenix robe was truly made from the feathers of a phoenix? This was impossible, right? Mo Qingqing's body landed on the ceremonial platform, and the wings closed as she directly vanished from sight. She stared at Qin Wentian, as the smile in her eyes never faded. Wentian, I like mother's gift very much. Qin Wentian was also very happy in his heart. He stared at Uncle Black, only to see Uncle Black speaking to him, your father only left you a single sentence. A good man, no matter how ordinary or not, should have an indomitable spirit and have a clear conscience. Your child understands. A smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face. He had seen his parents before in his memories, and he knew where the name, Wentian, came from. Have you guys spoken enough? At this moment, Jun Yu's voice drifted over, interrupting Qin Wentian and the others. A cripple was actually trying to act mysterious here. Uncle Black's gaze turned over, only to see several figures walking out from the crowd. These people didn't reveal their true features, and all of them wore masks. It was unknown who they were. Those from the royal sacred sect are simply too impudent. A voice rang out in the air as a group of figures descended from the skies. The person in the center was clad in luxurious robes, with a crown on his head. This person was none other than the human emperor of an ancient country, Yi Qingyun. Foster father, you're here. Qin Wentian called out as he stared at the figure in the air. Wentian, I've long discovered the existence of these people. Hence, I didn't show myself. However, I'm sure the medicine sovereign has already made arrangements. Yi Qingyun spoke as he arrived on the ceremonial stage. Huh, little Yi, you even know about this? A voice drifted over. After which, a bright light flashed as two silhouettes directly appeared on the ceremonial stage. It was none other than the medicine sovereign and that old man who killed an elder of the royal sacred region. The gazes of Jun Yu and the experts from the royal sacred sect froze as they stared at the medicine sovereign, as though they had just seen something unbelievable. Medicine sovereign, you actually came here? An expert from the royal sacred sect stared at the medicine sovereign as he spoke. Humph! The medicine sovereign coldly glanced at those from the royal sacred sect as killing intent flashed in his eyes. Seems like I've given you guys too much face, to think that you actually dared to surround my medicine sovereign valley. Medicine sovereign, what do you want? An expert from the royal sacred sect coldly spoke. What do I want? A cold light flickered in the eyes of the medicine sovereign. He turned his gaze onto Uncle Black, only to see Uncle Black sweeping a glance at those people before he transmitted his voice to Qin Wentian. From the day you were born, other than me, this trash, bringing you into the sect, us old fellows have never done anything for you. This is the orders of your parents, a man should always be strong. All the hardships and setbacks you have experienced, they will all be precious treasures for you in the future. If there comes a day when you can become an immortal, we will naturally tell you everything because you already have the qualifications to become a supreme expert. What you have now is still insufficient. But today is your wedding. Even if your parents blame us, we will still act for you. Uncle Black's voice rang out in Qin Wentian's mind. After which, he turned his gaze onto those masked figures as he spoke, kill them all without mercy. As the sound of his voice faded, a terrifying light engulfed the heavens and earth. Instantly, the sky changed color as the wind and clouds howled. The countenances of those experts from the royal sacred sect were all incredibly unsightly to behold. At the same time, they released their constellations as resplendent beams of light illuminated the entire space. And at this moment, among those masked figures, a silhouette stepped out. With a wave of his hand, a spatial constellation manifested, enveloping the entire space as a terrifying spatial tempest frenziedly manifested. Walala! That tempest ravaged the surroundings, the experts from the Emperor Star Academy couldn't even stand stably. When they felt the terrifying chi flow, their hearts pounded madly. They didn't even dare to imagine how powerful such an expert was. Bzzz. The raging wind ravaged the space as the spatial tempest transformed into a black hole, drifting away from the crowd, as though intentionally not wanting to destroy the wedding venue. In the blink of an eye, the spatial tempest had already soared to the skies. But even on the ground, one could still feel the destructive chi flow from it. However, in just a short instant, the spatial tempest gradually dissipated. When everything vanished like smoke, the crowd discovered to their shock that there was no one within the spatial tempest. Is he dead? The hearts of the crowd pounded violently. This spatial tempest was caused by those from Qin Wentian's side. In that case, those on his side naturally could leave safely. But as for Jun Yu and the others, when they thought of the words "kill them all without mercy," the crowd couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. Turning their gazes towards those masked figures, they suddenly discovered that all of them had vanished, as though they had never appeared before. Maybe, they were mixed in with the crowd from the Emperor Star Academy, silently observing this wedding. They were so low profile that if it wasn't for someone causing trouble, they wouldn't even show themselves. Those ascendants of Grand Xia involuntarily trembled. Those existences were all experts from the Royal Sacred Sect, experts that governed the entire Royal Sacred region. Yet they were all killed without mercy. In that case, what did they count for? The ascendants of Grand Xia. In front of them, they were nothing more than ant-like existences, yet they still dared to cause trouble here. Chapter 688. Only when Qin Wentian lowered his head did he discover that those people had already disappeared. His heart was filled with unease. So it turned out that not only his parents, Uncle Black and the rest had been silently observing him. Today was the day of his grand wedding. Uncle Black brought his mother's gift and most probably, his father's loyal subordinates as well. Qin Wentian suddenly glanced at the medicine sovereign as a smile flickered in his eyes. When he turned his gaze back to Mo Qingqing, everything seemed to have cleared up. No wonder the medicine sovereign looked at him in a new light and even helped him to such an extent. Just because he was the person Mo Qingqing loved, the medicine sovereign would spare no effort to help him. Even standing on the opposing side of the Royal Sacred Sect. Qin Wentian wasn't a fool. He did have talent, but in this world, those lofty existences wouldn't only look at your talent. What did your talent have to do with others? Why would they help you, take care of you, and even offend your enemies? There was only one possibility. Uncle Black and the medicine sovereign were acquainted with each other. Also, why didn't he die back then in the Pill Emperor Hall? Could it be that only Qing'er could save him? Back then, Qing'er said that Mo Qingqing might still be alive. Maybe she had seen something. At this moment, Qin Wentian guessed that Mo Qingqing should have been sent to the Medicine Sovereign Valley by Uncle Black and the others, and was accepted as a disciple by the Medicine Sovereign. If this was the case, everything could be connected. This was also why the Medicine Sovereign was so confident in his letter. Because, he had long known that Uncle Black and the others had already arrived in Chu. Qin Wentian was thinking that back then when the Dark Shadow Sovereign tried to assassinate him, Uncle Black should have been there as well. But these people were truly able to endure. Even when he encountered such danger, they still didn't appear. As he thought of this, an imposing silhouette appeared in his eyes. That silhouette was indomitable, iron-blooded and gentle. That silhouette told him that a man should strengthen himself. He wanted Qin Wentian to ask the heavens and ask the heavens, who was the master of this world. Father, mother, your son will definitely not disappoint you. Qin Wentian stared at the sky, it was as though he could see the two silhouettes silently watching him grow. Only by becoming an immortal would one have the qualifications to become a supreme expert. Did he know about his parents? Uncle Black, Senior Medicine Sovereign, Foster Father, please be seated. Today, all of you will be the witnesses for me and Qingqing. Qin Wentian smiled at everyone. Haha, good. I'm truly happy to see you and Qingqing getting married. However, I don't have anything else to give you. Today, I brought some people with me. In the future, you will be in charge of this place. Yi Qingyun said. Suddenly, a group of people came to the front of the ceremonial platform. They knelt on one knee in front of Qin Wentian and said respectfully, "Greetings, Master. They are all at the celestial phenomenon realm and I didn't force them. They followed me because they wanted to repay a debt of gratitude. If there comes a day when you feel that there's no meaning in keeping them around, just release them." Yi Qingyun was still as heroic as ever. Qin Wentian nodded. It just so happened that he lacked an army that could govern Great Xia. With these people, Great Xia could develop better. Rise. Qin Wentian waved his hands as everyone stood up and stood at the side. Those ascendants of Grand Xia were all trembling in their hearts. This was called having nothing else to give away. Gifting a small army of celestial phenomenon ascendants with a single move. All of them were sweating in their hearts, even the thought of dying appeared in their minds. All of them stood there in trepidation, no one dared to move. Jun Yu, the one they relied on, was directly killed by someone. The pitiful Jun Yu, that arrogant disciple of the royal sacred sect, was killed like an ant, directly trampling him to death. The medicine sovereign, Uncle Black, Yi Qingyun and the others sat down. Qin Chuan and the others all took the initiative to give up their seats to show their respect. Although they were very close to Qin Wentian understood how important Uncle Black was in Qin Wentian's heart. This old man had been protecting Qin Wentian for over 10 years. The feelings he had for Qin Wentian were incomparable. In addition, the status of these people were far from what they could compare to. Although the medicine sovereign and the others wouldn't care so much. "We're all a family, feel free to take a seat." The medicine sovereign laughed in an amiable manner. Momentarily, everyone laughed and no longer bothered about it. They all sat down in a row, there was no need to differentiate who was in the first place. Only now did Qin Wentian turn his gaze onto those ascendants of Grand Xiao. He then spoke, "I've already given you guys a chance. For the sake of Grand Xia's prosperity, I initially didn't want to touch you guys. I only needed you guys to strengthen yourselves, allowing the overall strength of my Grand Xia to grow stronger. However, you guys have repeatedly refused to give up on killing me. In that case, there's no longer a need for me to be so patient with you guys." As the sound of Qin Wentian's voice faded, the countenances of the ascendants of Grand Xia instantly turned pale. The Shi ancestor spoke, "Qin Wentian, since things have already come to this, I don't wish to say anything more. But why must you be so ruthless? We are willing to submit to the Azure Emperor Palace. Wouldn't it be good if this matter ends here?" What a joke. Qin Wentian waved his hands. "I haven't even said that I want to unify Grand Xia and you guys have already joined hands to deal with me. Not long ago, I gave you guys a chance. Now that the situation is completely clear, you guys know that you can't do anything, yet you still want to retreat unscathed. The winner is the king, the loser is the bandit. Since you can't do anything, you want to retreat? What a joke." Qin Wentian's words caused everyone to feel a chill from head to toe. That's right, the winner is the king, the loser is the bandit. Qin Wentian wanted to unify Grand Xiao. If they had the ability to kill Qin Wentian, they would have already won. But after trying to kill him several times, would Qin Wentian still agree to retreat unscathed? However, I won't kill you guys. At this moment, Qin Wentian's voice caused the eyes of the crowd to regain a glimmer of light. "Mu Feng." Qin Wentian called out. Mu Feng's silhouette walked out, standing behind Qin Wentian. "Didn't you develop a type of blood poison a while ago? Let them consume it and from now onwards, you will be in charge of all the transcendent powers of Grand Xia." Qin Wentian spoke. Mu Feng's countenance gleamed with coldness as he stared at the transcendent powers of Grand Xia, slowly walking towards them. Mu Feng's strength isn't strong enough, you guys can still force the poison out of his body. However, all of you have to channel the poison into your blood and body. From now onwards, your lives will be in the hands of Mu Feng. Naturally, you guys can choose to disobey and choose death. Qin Wentian's voice was filled with coldness. The faces of the transcendent powers of Grand Xia turned pale as a sense of helplessness surfaced in their hearts. They could only reluctantly nod their heads, they couldn't bear to die. Given Qin Wentian's talent, he would definitely not stay in Grand Xia. As long as they obeyed the Azure Emperor Palace's orders, Qin Wentian wouldn't do anything to them. As for the poison, they could slowly get closer to Qin Wentian in the future, easing the hatred that had accumulated during this period of time. Mu Feng walked up and started to bestow the poison onto these transcendent powers. None of them resisted the corrosion of the blood poison. This type of blood poison was extremely tyrannical and was drawn from Mu Feng's own blood. Once the poison entered their blood and internal organs, Mu Feng would be able to control the effects of the poison and control the lives of these people. A look of relief flashed in Uncle Black's eyes. Qin Wentian had truly grown up. If these people couldn't be killed, they had to be controlled. If not, human nature was the most unpredictable thing. Even if they submitted today, if there was a chance to kill Qin Wentian in the future, they wouldn't be so courteous. If they didn't kill them, their lives would be in the hands of Qin Wentian. None of these transcendent powers dared to defy Mu Feng. As the poison entered their bodies, their countenances all turned black. Mu Feng closed his eyes as an intense black glow radiated from him. Momentarily, the black qi from the transcendent powers grew stronger and stronger. Only after a few moments did Mu Feng finally stop. He stared at Qin Wentian, that's enough. Return. 3 days later, head to the royal palace of Grand Xia and await further orders. Qin Wentian waved his hands, expelling them. The countenances of these transcendent powers all changed. Since they had already submitted, they initially wanted to leave a good impression on Qin Wentian. Yet who would have thought that Qin Wentian wouldn't even give them a chance to attend the wedding banquet, directly expelling them. Very swiftly, their silhouettes disappeared into the distance. Occasionally, the transcendent powers would glance at each other, wanting to say something yet they didn't know what to say. They could only sigh in response. Nothing much, we're only being controlled. Let's just say that we've submitted. As long as we don't resist, Qin Wentian wouldn't do anything to us. The Shi ancestor consoled himself. He doesn't care at all. Someone sighed. Yeah, he doesn't care at all. The Hua ancestor spoke in a depressed tone. Jun Yu represented the people of the royal sacred region to seek them out. Since Hua Taishu was now a disciple of the royal sacred region, they naturally knew which side to stand on. Hence, they chose to stand together with the transcendent powers of Grand Xia. Who would have thought that such a situation would occur? What should we do now? Someone asked. I have something on, I'll make a move first. At this moment, an expert from a transcendent power in the war continent sped away. This scene caused the eyes of the others to narrow. I have something on as well. A few more celestial phenomenon ascendants also sped away. These old foxes. The eyes of the others all flickered. After which, they turned their gazes onto another ascendant from the Wang clan in the war continent. The Wang ancestor was killed by Qin Wentian, this grudge had already been sown. Qin Wentian also said that the Wang clan was finished. Wouldn't it be better if they helped Qin Wentian to settle this matter? Qin Wentian himself didn't expect that the moment he poisoned them, these old foxes would already start scheming against each other, wanting to wipe out the Wang clan in order to curry favor with him. The hearts of humans were truly unfathomable. Not long ago, the Wang clan was still their ally. The wedding in the Emperor Star Academy continued. Under the blessings of everyone, Qin Wentian and Imo Qinqing held hands as they kowtowed to their parents, as well as to the heavens and earth. According to the customs of Chu, the wedding ceremony would start with the kowtowing to the heavens, followed by the kowtowing to the earth and heaven. Yet Qin Wentian and Imo Qinqing first kowtowed to their parents, before kowtowing to the heavens and earth. After the ceremony ended, Qin Wentian and Imo Qinqing walked to the side of the stage and called out, "Wine." Luo Huan, who was at the side, smiled as she brought the wine over. Only to see Qin Wentian pouring a jug of wine into the air. After which, he and Imo Qinqing each took a cup of wine as he spoke, "Qinqing, I have no idea where my birth parents are. But today, the two of us will still toast a cup to my parents." Imo Qinqing nodded. The two of them faced the heavens and drained the wine in their cups, before bowing to each other. Only then did they hold hands and smile at each other. "I won't abandon you in this lifetime." Qin Wentian gazed at Imo Qinqing as he gently spoke. "I'm willing to follow you through life and death." Imo Qinqing replied. These simple words were a lifelong promise. Chapter 689. Not far away from the Emperor Star Academy, in the air, an intense spatial fluctuation could be felt. Within this spatial fluctuation, two silhouettes could be seen. One of them was an old man clad in luxurious robes. His eyes were closed as he quietly stood there, as though he didn't care about anything. The only thing he cared about was the woman standing beside him. The female was extremely beautiful. She was clad in a simple green robe, silently observing everything that happened in the Emperor Star Academy. From the start to the end, she only quietly watched. Occasionally, the corners of her eyes would twitch, as a hint of sadness could be seen flickering in her eyes. The situation in Grand Xia has already been unified. What Princess wants to see has already been decided. Isn't it about time for Princess to follow me back to the clan? The old man calmly spoke. This woman was none other than Qing'er. Qing'er acted as if she didn't hear his words. She slowly turned her gaze towards the old man. Her expression was still as cold as ever as she said, "Since you sent me here when I was young, why bring me back to the clan?" Back then when the immortal emperor was vying for the throne, his life could be in danger at any moment. How could he allow Princess to be embroiled in this storm? Reality has proven the wisdom of the immortal emperor. During the vying for the throne, the immortal emperor almost lost his life. That battle was simply too intense and lasted for a total of 20 years before the immortal emperor finally obtained the throne. Now, how could he allow Princess to suffer outside? The old man respectfully spoke. Qing'er was still as cold as ever. "I'm not suffering. Princess, the royal sacred region is just a remote region. Back then, the reason we sent you here was so that no one would be able to find you. The cultivation bases of the people here are extremely weak, and sooner or later, they would encounter a bottleneck." The old man continued, "Not only that, Princess has already promised this old slave. For the sake of Princess, the immortal emperor would create such a huge storm and obtain that immortal art. Now that Princess is unwilling to return with me, how can this old slave explain this to the immortal emperor?" Qing'er was still as cold as ever. She turned her head and stared in the direction of the Emperor Star Academy as she replied in a low voice, "Let's wait for a few more days." "All right." The old man smiled bitterly and shook his head. He opened his eyes and glanced at the sky below and sighed in his heart. It was easy for females to be trapped by emotions. This was the weakness of females in the cultivation world. The princess seemed to have developed feelings for this young man. Back then, she wanted the great Nirvana immortal art precisely because of this young man. However, although this young man's talent was extraordinary, his status was still far from the princess. If the princess was interested, she could simply issue an imperial edict to select a husband for the princess. That would be enough to shake the entire world. At that time, what kind of demon-level geniuses would there be? When the old man's gaze swept past, the medicine sovereign on the ceremonial stage of the Emperor Star Academy furrowed his brows. After which, he inclined his head and cast a glance in the direction of the medicine sovereign. However, he swiftly shifted his gaze back as he continued smiling at the young man holding hands with the medicine sovereign. Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing held each other's hands as they walked back to the side of the elders. "Seeing the two of you, I really want to be young again." The medicine sovereign laughed. The medicine sovereign was simply too old. It was said that he had lived for even longer than the current sacred emperor of the royal sacred sect. Yi Qingyun was also a famous character in the royal sacred region, the human emperor of an ancient country. However, the medicine sovereign could directly refer to him as Little Yi. Yi Qingyun couldn't be angry at him. There was no solution to this, the medicine sovereign's qualifications were all there for all to see. Leaving aside his attainments in alchemy, his combat prowess was also extremely high. He had already reached the peak of celestial phenomenon many years ago, and it has been too long since he last fought. It was rumored that he had survived several times before his time was up. Now, nobody knew how powerful the medicine sovereign was. Uncle Black walked to the side of Qin Wentian and helped Qin Wentian to straighten his robes. He then patted Qin Wentian on his shoulder as he spoke, "From today onwards, you are also someone with a family. You have truly grown up. Your parents will definitely watch as you grow into a man that can support the heavens with his head held high and his feet firmly planted on the ground. Uncle Black will also watch over you." "I will." Qin Wentian nodded. He placed Uncle Black's hand down and stretched out both his hands to help Uncle Black straighten his robes. After which, he walked up and gave Uncle Black a hug. "Thank you, Uncle Black. Actually, Wentian has always treated you as his father." Uncle Black, who was tightly hugged by Qin Wentian, trembled. After which, his eyes turned red as 2 drops of tears involuntarily flowed down his face. A good man would also cry. Tens of years of hope had all been placed on Qin Wentian. How could he not treat the son of his master as his own? "Master, Madam, Wentian has truly grown up. He won't disappoint you. He will definitely make those people regret." Uncle Black's eyes were red as he stared at the sky as he murmured in a low voice. How could the son of Qin Yuanfeng be inferior? One day, he would also make the immortals and devils cry, causing the divine race to tremble in fear. The two of them separated. Qin Wentian then walked to the side of Qin Chuan as he smiled, "Foster father." As he spoke, he also hugged Qin Chuan. Qin Chuan patted Qin Wentian's shoulder as his eyes reddened. He was similarly moved in his heart. His only regret was that Qin Wentian wasn't his biological son. His feelings for Qin Wentian definitely wouldn't be inferior to his feelings for Qin Yao. He viewed Qin Wentian as his own son. In the future, Qin Yao might continue to accompany him and find a good man to marry, but she wouldn't be too far away from him. But for Wentian, he would chase after the footsteps of the strong, walking further and further. In the future, the chances of them meeting each other would be lesser and lesser. "Teacher." Qin Wentian walked towards Mustang. The two of them smiled and hugged each other. Mustang's kindness towards Qin Wentian was something he had no way to repay. Back then when he first started cultivating, it was Mustang who led a group of people to Sky Harmony City to save him. After that, Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing walked down the ceremonial stage under the escort of the crowd. As the banquet began, the atmosphere in the Emperor Star Academy was extremely lively. However, the spectators felt a sense of disappointment and frustration because they wouldn't be able to see that pair of lovers anymore. Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing only stood on the stage. The spectators would rather continue staring at them. They were both living legends, and they were still so young. As for the elders of Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing, many of them were also at the legendary realm. In fact, they hadn't even come into contact with the legendary realm yet. Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing's beautiful and handsome friends would all become legends in Grand Xia in the future. Every single one of them was exceedingly outstanding. Today, there was no way for the royal capital of Chu to be calm. Everyone in the city was discussing about this wedding. Today, Qin Wentian's name became a symbol of Chu. He didn't have any official position in Chu, but with a single thought, he could determine the ownership of Chu. In fact, the entire Grand Xia had submitted to him. That vast and powerful Grand Xia, the 9 mystical palace that once governed Chu, was merely a minor power. But now, everything was under Qin Wentian's control. Not only that, it was rumored that Qin Wentian's power was no longer limited to Grand Xia. In fact, there was a place known as the Royal Sacred Region where Qin Wentian was extremely famous. However, at this level, the people of Chu had no way to come into contact with him. Even after everything ended, the people of Chu were still unable to calm down. For a very long period of time, they were still immersed in the shock brought to them by this wedding. To the people of Chu, this was a baptism, allowing them to have a deeper understanding of the outside world. Many youths started to think of venturing out into the world, roaming the heavens and earth that belonged to them. Their gazes were no longer limited to a single country like Chu. And among these people, the Emperor Star Academy was the most outstanding. They had personally witnessed the grand wedding and were the witnesses. They could be considered as the batch of outstanding geniuses in Chu. They started to dream of a day when their names would resound throughout the world. 3 days later, the dust had already settled. On the day of the wedding, Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing sent off many of their loved ones and friends. At the same time, they told Fairy Qingmei and the rest to return to Grand Xia. Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing brought Little Rascal along as they roamed around Grand Xia, relaxing. They didn't even bother to cultivate and only enjoyed life for 3 days. They roamed around the mountains and rivers, strolled on the lakes, and glided across the boundless glaciers. Although it was only a short 3 days, Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing's footprints were all over Grand Xia. Ginkgo, the ancient kingdom of Grand Xia. Today, the atmosphere was brimming with vitality. The news of Qin Wentian unifying Grand Xia had long circulated around Ginkgo, and was even circulating around the entire Grand Xia. Now that the ancient kingdom had already been rebuilt, Qin Wentian could even change the name of the new kingdom, using his surname as the name. There were already rumors circulating around Ginkgo that the new kingdom might be renamed by Qin Wentian, the Qin dynasty. Today, in a vast area beneath the ancient palace, the various ascendants of Grand Xia led their troops to pay their respects. From afar, there were countless spectators watching silently as their hearts pounded. Today, was Grand Xia going to undergo a change of dynasty? This was going to be a brand new era. Ever since the destruction of the ancient kingdom, Grand Xia had never seen such a grand scene before. Celestial phenomenon ascendants gathered here, leading their clans and sects to pay their respects. Up ahead, on the majestic flight of stairs carved with dragons and phoenixes, 2 silhouettes could be seen slowly walking over, standing in front of the ancient palace. These 2 were extremely young, yet the people below all bowed respectfully, not daring to show the slightest bit of disrespect. They had already experienced Qin Wentian's methods, and now, none of them dared to do anything disrespectful. On the stairs, Fairy Qingmei, Old Xing, and the experts sent by Yi Qingyun all stood there. In the eyes of the experts from the Jiang clan and Thousand Zhu alliance, unconcealable excitement could be seen. This was a new dynasty, they didn't choose the wrong side. Qin Wentian surveyed the crowd below, his heart had never been so calm before. Grand Xia was unified, he didn't let down the Xia Emperor or the Azure Emperor. Today, the new dynasty shall still be known as Grand Xia. The name of the dynasty shall not change. Qin Wentian's eyes were filled with the entire world. Not changing the dynasty, he unified Grand Xia for 2 reasons. Firstly, it was to fulfill the long-cherished wish of his senior, and secondly, it was to revive Grand Xia. As for authority, How could Qin Wentian be reluctant to part with the authority of a mere Grand Xiao? There was an even vaster world in his heart. From this moment onwards, Grand Xia shall be unified. Fairy Qingmei shall be the supreme elder of Grand Xiao, and shall be in charge of all matters in Grand Xiao. Old Xing shall be in charge of the punishment, the Venerate Heavens sect shall be in charge of the academies of Grand Xiao, and the Mystic Moon Hall, Azure Emperor Palace, Jiang Clan, and Thousand Ju Alliance shall be in charge of all matters in Grand Xiao. As for the other matters, all of you shall cooperate with Fairy Qingmei to reorganize Grand Xiao. Qin Wentian spoke in a clear voice. He believed that even if he wasn't proficient in other matters, Fairy Qingmei and the others would definitely be more proficient than him. We obey your Majesty's order. Below, a voice rang out as countless figures bowed at the same time, we obey your Majesty's order. Qin Wentian stared at the experts of Grand Xiao. Pulling Imo Qingqing's hand, he slowly turned and walked into the depths of the Grand Xia Empire. Chapter 690. The unification of Grand Xia shook the entire world. The name of Qin Wentian once again caused towering waves of commotion in Grand Xia. And this time around, Qin Wentian's identity was that of the Emperor of Grand Xia. He was the one who unified Grand Xia, ending thousands of years of internal strife, causing all the transcendent powers to submit to him. Such an achievement caused the people of Grand Xia to sigh in admiration. Who wouldn't know what the name Qin Wentian represented? Thinking back to a few years ago, when his name shook Grand Xia, it was because of the heavenly fate-ranking battle. Because he wielded the demon sword and went to the Pill Emperor Hall. Who would have thought that in such a short period of time, he would become an unparalleled character in Grand Xia? Qin Wentian was known as the Qin Emperor by the people of Grand Xia, but there were also people who referred to him as the Demon Lord. Because when Qin Wentian battled, his demonic qi towered up into the sky. His entire person was incomparably demonic, akin to a descendant of a demon king. And because of his demon-level talent, nobody in Grand Xia could stand shoulder to shoulder with him. However, no matter what the outside world called him, Qin Wentian didn't care. After handing over the matters of Grand Xia to Fairy Qingmei issued several orders, starting to reorganize Grand Xia. Grand Xia would still be divided into 9 prefectures. The various transcendent powers would no longer be able to control the 9 continents easily. They had to start a comprehensive reorganization, establishing a strict selection system for talents. At the same time, they had to establish a martial arts academy in the 9 continents. At the same time, the transcendent powers had to set an example, becoming the leaders of the academies and guiding the younger generations. At the same time, they had to set up a reward and punishment system so that the transcendent powers wouldn't be able to do as they pleased. Grand Xia was viewed as a desolate land of desolation, it was simply too weak. Any transcendent power in the royal sacred region could easily sweep through Grand Xia. Qin Wentian didn't wish for Grand Xia to be swept away so easily in the future. However, they all understood a logic, those old fellows of Grand Xia no longer had any hope. Their hopes were all placed on their descendants. Only when the youths were strong would Grand Xia be strong in the future. Even if they left the royal sacred region, as long as their descendants continued to support Grand Xia, not forgetting the kindness Grand Xia had shown them, there would definitely be a day when Grand Xia would return to its former glory. Not only that, Qin Wentian even treated the ultimate arts of Grand Xia as the ultimate treasures of the 9 prefectures academy. For those with supreme talent, they would have the opportunity to cultivate those top-tier innate techniques. The various transcendent powers of Grand Xia also wanted to bring out their ultimate arts. Naturally, Fairy Qingmei knew that this still required time. In the great hall of the royal palace of Grand Xia, Qin Wentian sat in his seat. Numerous reports were sent to him. Qin Wentian patiently flipped through them, and the more he read, the more shocked he felt. After a long time, Qin Wentian placed the reports down. Drawing in a deep breath, he wrote a few large words on the table: Star River Association. This thick stack of reports was all about the Star River Association. This was a power that Qin Wentian had interacted with in the Sky Harmony City as well as the royal capital of Chu. It was so powerful that it caused him to feel fear in his heart. According to the records, in the vast territories governed by the Grand Xia Empire, there was a Star River Association in every city. The headquarters of the Star River Association was located in the Ginkgo continent. Qin Wentian had interacted with the Star River Association in the Moon continent before and rejected their invitation. His impression of the Star River Association was extremely bad. In the Sky Harmony City, he had also interacted with the Star River Association. His impression of the Star River Association was similarly bad, and there were even many conflicts between them. In truth, the records of the Star River Association were the same as his impression of the Star River Association. Although they seemed low profile, they were tyrannical to the extreme. Su Zhe, one of the top 3 rankers of the Heavenly Fate rankings 30 years ago. His talent in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions was extremely high. But because he rejected the invitation of the Star River Association, he disappeared 3 days later. This was the record of one of the reports, and it was clearly recorded down. In these reports, there were still some blurry details that couldn't be ascertained to be the work of the Star River Association. However, Qin Wentian felt that there was an 80 to 90% chance that it was the work of the Star River Association. The Azure Emperor's death back then had already been ascertained that the most fatal factor was the assassination attempt by the Star River Association. The situation was very similar to what he was experiencing now. Many transcendent powers had invited the Star River Association to act. Not only that, it was the same person, the Dark Shadow Sovereign. The Dark Shadow Sovereign was the leader of the Dark Shadow branch of the Star River Association in the Grand Xia Empire. He was the most mysterious and most powerful assassin in Grand Xia. Malignant tumor. 2 words appeared in Qin Wentian's mind. The Star River Association was definitely the malignant tumor of Grand Xia. Although they didn't seem to be fighting for power, and didn't reveal their true strength, just like how they were in Chu and Sky Harmony City, the truth was that they were extremely arrogant and conceited. Not only that, the members of the Star River Association that Qin Wentian had met before were all extremely despicable. An example was Murin back then, who directly sold him and the members of the Qin clan to the Yi clan, almost causing their deaths. The hatred between him and the Star River Association had been formed ever since he was a youth. One couldn't help but say that this was a type of fate. Hence, regardless of whether it was for public or private reasons, he had to pull out this malignant tumor. Qin Wentian's perception gushed out, swiftly enveloping the entire royal palace. Not long after, Fairy Qin Mei, Old Xing, and several others appeared in the great hall where Qin Wentian was in. "We pay our respects to your majesty." Fairy Qin Mei and the others greeted. "You guys don't have to be so polite in private, just call me Wentian." Qin Wentian smiled. Fairy Qin Mei giggled, "Why? Are you still reading the dossiers regarding the Star River Association?" I plan to leave after settling this matter. Do you guys have any objections?" Qin Wentian stared at Fairy Qin Mei and the others. Old Xing frowned as he stared at Qin Wentian. "Wentian, according to the dossiers, the power of the Star River Association is so strong that it's terrifying. Not only that, their sphere of influence isn't just limited to Grand Xia. If not, it's impossible for them to infiltrate so deeply. It's easy to overlook this power. The Star River Association is like a venomous snake. Normally, if you don't come into contact with them, you wouldn't even be able to sense their existence. But the moment they set their sights on you, you would become their prey." Fairy Qin Mei also had a heavy expression on her face. Only after they read through all the scrolls did they truly understand what sort of power the Star River Association was. In the past, their understanding of the Star River Association was actually so incomplete. Although this sounded somewhat ridiculous, such a thing had actually happened before their very eyes. An expression of contemplation appeared on Qin Wentian's face. He had also considered old Xing's words. His conjecture was the same as old Xing's. The power of the Star River Association wasn't just limited to Grand Xia. Their shadows could be seen in Grand Shang, Grand Zhou, and even the entire royal sacred region. It was just that they were usually too low profile and didn't attract any attention. They didn't even appear in the list of superpowers that were vying for power. Such a group of people was the most dangerous. According to what the Shi ancestor said, the intelligence network of the Star River Association should be extremely powerful. Most probably, the Star River Association knows everything about me. If not, they wouldn't be willing to pay such a hefty price. If this is the case, my name should have long been recorded in the Star River Association's dossiers. They should also be aware of everything that happened in the Chu country, Qin Wentian murmured to himself. Qin Wentian slowly spoke as he analyzed, if that's the case, if I destroy the Star River Association in Grand Xia, the upper echelons of the Star River Association wouldn't target anyone else but me. Fairy Qin Mei and the rest had solemn expressions on their faces. Qin Wentian's analysis wasn't without logic. If they wanted to destroy the Star River Association, it was clear that Qin Wentian was determined to do so. How about this, let's start from the 9 prefectures and wipe out the Star River Association. Leave the Ginkgo continent to me, and in order to prevent the Star River Association from implicating Grand Xia, we won't kill anyone from the Star River Association. We will only use my name to announce to the world that I, Qin Wentian, will not allow any Star River Association to exist in Grand Xia. I will destroy all of them. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with sharpness. If this was the case, the Star River Association should understand his intentions. If they wanted revenge, they could find him, Qin Wentian. Fairy Qingmei's heart trembled when she saw the sharpness in Qin Wentian's eyes. This fellow, once he made up his mind, he would execute it immediately. Right. Fairy Qingmei, Old Xing and the rest nodded as they retreated from the Great Hall, beginning the final mission Qin Wentian had assigned to them before he left Grand Xia. One day later, the 9 prefectures of Grand Xia simultaneously launched an attack on the Star River Association. They wanted to destroy all branches of the Star River Association, but they wouldn't kill anyone from the Star River Association. His Majesty had ordered that the Star River Association was not to exist in Grand Xia. This was the first iron-blooded command that Qin Wentian had issued after he unified Grand Xia. In Ginkgo, outside the Star River Association, a terrifying aura enveloped the entire Star River Association. In the main hall of the Star River Association, a white-robed silhouette stood there. This silhouette had an ancient sword strapped to his back, exuding an unexcelled aura. Bzzz, bzzz, bzzz. Numerous silhouettes flickered, they were none other than the Hall Lords of the Star River Association. Their gazes were fixed on Qin Wentian, as coldness flickered in their eyes. Qin Wentian, what do you mean by this? The Hall Lord of the Star River Association was an expert in weaponsmithing. He was clad in fiery robes as he stared at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's gaze swept over, landing on a grey-robed figure. This figure was none other than the Dark Shadow Sovereign. Qin Wentian, I've already forgiven you for the assassination attempt. From now onwards, my Star River Association will not interfere with your affairs. The Dark Shadow Sovereign narrowed his eyes as he stared at Qin Wentian. Since you didn't kill me, you will not interfere with my affairs? Qin Wentian stared at the Dark Shadow Sovereign. After which, a terrifying sword might gushed forth from him, transforming into a terrifying tempest that ravaged the heavens and earth. Gotcha! Qin Wentian stomped his foot, causing terrifying cracks to appear on the surface of the ancient hall. Qin Wentian, do you know what you are doing? The countenance of the Dark Shadow Sovereign was extremely cold. From today onwards, the Star River Association is no longer allowed to exist in Grand Xia. Qin Wentian lifted his foot and stomped it down again. A terrifying destructive might bore down on him, causing the ancient hall below to crumble. Qin Wentian, I know you have the medicine sovereign supporting you from the back. But let me give you a piece of advice. Let bygones be bygones. In fact, I can even forget about what happened today. If not, no matter how strong your background is, there will be no place for you in the royal sacred region. The voice of the Dark Shadow Sovereign turned cold. If you still don't give up, no matter where you go, you will die for sure. The Hall Lord of the Star River Association icily threatened. This was the first time the Star River Association was provoked. Chapter 691. Qin Wentian swept his gaze over and instantly sensed the cultivation bases of the Star River Lord and the Dark Shadow Sovereign. The Star River Lord was at the second level of celestial phenomenon. In the perspective of Grand Xia, his strength was at the peak. As for the Dark Shadow Sovereign, he was even stronger. His aura was at the third level of celestial phenomenon, and in addition to the fact that his constellation was stronger compared to the other ascendants of Grand Xia, the Dark Shadow Sovereign's strength could be considered the strongest in the entire Grand Xia. Once an uncontrollable existence appeared, the other ascendants would immediately think of hiring him to assassinate them. To the Dark Shadow Sovereign, as long as someone could afford the price, he would kill them. In this Grand Xia, he was the King of Darkness, the uncrowned king. In truth, given the Dark Shadow Sovereign's strength, he could already be transferred to the royal sacred region. However, his position wouldn't be too high. He was already very old, and it was impossible for his cultivation base to climb any higher. There was no meaning for him to stay in the middle of the royal sacred region, as those in the upper echelons wouldn't favor him. He wouldn't be able to obtain any benefits either. Hence, he chose to be the King of Darkness in Grand Xia. The Star River Lord was different, he was sent here to manage the Star River Association. He was only a few hundred years old and could already be considered very young. Not only that, he was also a Grandmaster weaponsmith with boundless potential. By gathering resources and accumulating experience, he would be able to ascend to a higher stage sooner or later. But no matter who it was, once the Star River Association of Grand Xia was destroyed, they would have to bear the crime of incompetence and be punished when they returned. In this land, the history of the Star River Association was even more ancient compared to the Grand Xia Empire. Today, for the first time, there was someone who dared to behave atrociously in the headquarters of the Star River Association. This person was none other than the person who was like the sun in the sky, the heaven's chosen, who was revered by countless people in Grand Xia, the Emperor of Grand Xia, Qin Wentian. But no matter how glorious he was, once he dared to destroy the Star River Association, there would only be a single path awaiting him, death. Dark Shadow Sovereign, stay behind. As for the others, scram. The sword intent radiating from Qin Wentian towered up into the skies as a boundless sword chi tempest enveloped the headquarters of the Star River Association. After which, his foot stomped downwards once more as a supreme sword might gushed forth, destroying everything in its path. The great hall was reduced to dust, completely destroyed. You actually have the aura of a celestial phenomenon ascendant. Have you broken through to celestial phenomenon? The countenance of the Dark Shadow Sovereign was extremely unsightly to behold. After Grand Xia was unified, there were people who guessed that Qin Wentian had already broken through to the celestial phenomenon realm. But when he saw Qin Wentian, he had no way to see through his cultivation base. It was only until now when Qin Wentian unleashed the might of a celestial phenomenon that he could clearly sense that this was indeed the might of a celestial phenomenon. A celestial phenomenon ascendant that wasn't even 30 years of age. The countenance of the Dark Shadow Sovereign turned incredibly unsightly to behold. In fact, there was even a hint of jealousy in his heart. He had lived for over 10,000 years and was still stuck at the peak of the third level of celestial phenomenon, unable to break through to the next level. But Qin Wentian was so young, yet he was already a celestial phenomenon ascendant. What was his limit? It was simply unimaginable. You originally had a bright future ahead of you, why must you seek death? The Star River Association isn't a place you can afford to antagonize. The Star River Lord coldly threatened. As a member of the Star River Association, he knew very well how powerful their Star River Association was. Although the Royal Sacred Sect was the hegemon of a region, so what of it? The Royal Sacred Sect still had to acknowledge the existence of the Star River Association. In the history of the Royal Sacred Region, there had never been anyone who dared to say that the Star River Association wasn't allowed to exist. Not even generations of sacred emperors dared to do so. Qin Wentian was the first to do so. He was merely the ruler of Grand Xia, yet he wanted to forbid the existence of the Star River Association. You guys talk too much nonsense. If you still don't scram, I will kill you all. Qin Wentian's countenance gleamed with a terrifying sharpness. His entire person was akin to a supreme sword, penetrating through everything. At this moment, there were many experts from the Star River Association surrounding him, yet when they stared at the silhouette of that young man, none of them dared to step forward to fight. This scene caused those who were watching from afar to sigh in their hearts. What was the meaning of absolute magnificence? Qin Wentian stood in the air, intimidating the entire Star River Association. As expected of a man who could cause the various hegemons of Grand Xia to submit to him. The halo of light around him was simply too resplendent. Back then I didn't manage to kill you. I truly want to see if you will unleash your sword might again today, injuring yourself first before injuring me. The Dark Shadow Sovereign stepped out, unleashing his dual constellations at the same time. In the blink of an eye, a starry space appeared above Qin Wentian's head. An incomparably terrifying vine could be seen wriggling about, directly enveloping this entire space. Boom! Another resplendent and terrifying constellation erupted forth. This was none other than the constellation released by the Star River Lord. Within the space created by the ancient vines, a fiery space that resembled magma appeared. Numerous terrifying divine weapons that were branded red could be seen within the magma, exuding an incomparably terrifying might. This was none other than the constellation of the Star River Lord. Qin Wentian could sense that just based on the strength of the Star River Association's Hall Lord, no one in Grand Xia would be able to contend against him. The constellations of those hegemons weren't on the same level as the Star River Association's Hall Lord. Since you have already broken through to celestial phenomenon, why don't you show me your constellation? The voice of the Dark Shadow Sovereign rang out. His body had already entered the second constellation, his voice was everywhere. Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared at the constellations of the two experts. This constellation was extremely dazzling, and right in the center was the divine might manifested by the constellation. At the edges of the constellation, a faint golden glow could be seen. Qin Wentian knew that this glow was the glow of an astral soul. Constellations were formed from the astral souls of stellar martial cultivators. Hence, the glow of the constellation represented which heavenly layer the astral soul originated from. The dense golden glow indicated that both of their constellations originated from the sixth heavenly layer. This should be the astral souls condensed by the constellation they condensed when they broke through to celestial phenomenon. In other words, their fifth astral soul originated from the sixth heavenly layer. It was just that in terms of the strength of their astral souls, Qin Wentian didn't have any advantage over the Dark Shadow Sovereign. The astral soul he condensed was his second astral soul, the Great Dream astral soul that originated from the fifth heavenly layer. As you wish. Behind Qin Wentian, a shadow gradually manifested. A terrifying tempest started to churn the space, enveloping his body as an intense dream force gushed forth. As expected, the first constellation you condensed must have been condensed from the astral souls you condensed before you broke through to celestial phenomenon. No matter how high your talent is, your astral soul is merely from the fifth heavenly layer. How can you fight against us? The Dark Shadow Sovereign sinisterly spoke. After which, rustling sounds rang out as terrifying ancient vines shot towards Qin Wentian. Not only him, the Star River Lord also acted. Within his constellation, numerous crimson divine weapons manifested, shooting towards Qin Wentian. Their might towered up into the sky, as though they wanted to annihilate all their enemies. It's more than enough to deal with you guys. The constellation behind Qin Wentian was even more dazzling, the tempest grew even more terrifying. He calmly stood there, allowing the ancient vines and lava divine weapons to rush over. However, a destructive tempest manifested around him, transforming into a vortex of destruction that could kill everything. Those vines and lava divine weapons were all shattered into pieces, unable to get close to Qin Wentian. What a powerful attack! The Dark Shadow Sovereign and the Star River Lord both felt shock in their hearts. The attack power of the constellation Qin Wentian condensed was extremely terrifying. It was like a constellation born for offense, using offense as defense. Since you guys want to see my constellation, I will grant it to you. Watch carefully. A divine light erupted forth from Qin Wentian's eyes. Instantly, resplendent astral light radiated forth as though a pair of eyes were opening and closing in the space between heaven and earth. At that instant, there was nothing around Qin Wentian. However, the Dark Shadow Sovereign and the Star River Lord discovered that their constellations were enveloped by a mysterious energy. Dreamworld constellation, omnipresent. Qin Wentian slowly spoke, his voice causing the hearts of the two of them to tremble. Was this the first time Qin Wentian condensed his constellation? Dreamworld constellation, they discovered that they had indeed been brought into a mysterious space. Now, let me show you what a true attack from a constellation is. As the sound of Qin Wentian's voice faded, a tempest manifested in the entire Dreamworld constellation. It was as though there were countless motes of destructive light in this space that were stirred up. Puchi, Chi. The ancient vines shattered unceasingly, and the divine weapons that erupted forth from the lava were directly destroyed. In this space, Qin Wentian was the overlord. I want to leave. The Star River Lord sensed danger. He retreated and lifted his palms to attack, only to discover that there seemed to be no boundary to this constellation. How could there be a boundary in a dream? This constellation was boundless and boundless. You want to leave? Since you have chosen to fight, just die. Qin Wentian stared at the Star River Lord. After which, his palms grabbed out in the air. Instantly, around the Star River Lord, the boundless destructive motes of light actually converged into a gigantic palm imprint that blotted out the skies, directly smashing towards him. No. The Star River Lord turned pale. He was the Star River Lord in charge of the Star River Association in Grand Xiao. He had only cultivated for a few hundred years and his potential was limitless. How could he die here? Boom! The destructive attack directly enveloped the Star River Palace Lord's body, turning it into dust. An instant later, his constellation vanished as well. A series of hurried breathing sounds rang out. It was the Dark Shadow Sovereign. Right now, although he was concealed within his constellation, he could still feel his entire body turning cold. How could this be? How could this be? How could the first constellation he condensed be so terrifying? Even with the guidance of a supreme expert, there was no way he could condense a constellation the first time he condensed it, right? Could it be that his constellation was formed by fusing 4 types of true intents together with his astral souls? Only then would he be able to insta-kill all constellations at the same level as him. When he thought of this, the Dark Shadow Sovereign felt even more unbearable in his heart. How could a young man who wasn't even 30 years of age have such accomplishments? The dream world was boundless, how could he break this constellation? Chapter 692. Not long ago, the Dark Shadow Sovereign had attempted to assassinate Qin Wentian. At that time, his dual constellation trapped Qin Wentian within, frenziedly torturing Qin Wentian, almost taking Qin Wentian's life. The Qin Wentian at that time, other than igniting his own self to unleash the immortal vanquishing swordplay, he had no idea how to break the Dark Shadow Sovereign's constellation. But now, the situation seemed to be reversed. Similarly, the Dark Shadow Sovereign unleashed his constellation, but this time around, it was the Dark Shadow Sovereign who had no idea how to break Qin Wentian's constellation. Any celestial phenomenon ascendant would have their own unique constellation. From the battle between Qin Wentian and the Dark Shadow Sovereign, one could faintly see the countless transformations of constellations. The powerful Dark Shadow Sovereign had a cultivation base at the third level of celestial phenomenon, but Qin Wentian had just condensed his own constellation not too long ago, and the Dark Shadow Sovereign already felt the threat of death looming over him. At this moment, the Dark Shadow Sovereign was still hidden within his second constellation. Rustling sounds rang out unceasingly as ancient vines frenziedly attacked Qin Wentian. However, the vines that extended out from his constellation were directly shredded apart by the fearsome destructive particles. Qin Wentian inclined his head, staring at the darkness of his constellation as he coldly spoke, "It's useless. If you want to injure me, you have to personally assassinate me. You won't be able to do it if you simply use your constellation." His cold voice was filled with tyranny and confidence. That tempest soared up into the air and started to stir the constellation of the Dark Shadow Sovereign. Regardless of the ancient Vine constellation or the Netherworld constellation, in his Dreamworld constellation, Qin Wentian wanted to see where the Dark Shadow Sovereign could hide. Within his Dreamworld constellation, the Dark Shadow Sovereign's ancient Vine constellation was completely crippled. It was completely useless. How could he trap Qin Wentian? Right now, he was trapped by Qin Wentian within the Dreamworld constellation. There was no way for him to exit even if he wanted to. As for attacking, the ancient Vine constellation's attacks were all insta-killed by the destructive particles contained within the Dreamworld constellation. Right now, the Dark Shadow Sovereign could only borrow the power of his second constellation. Right now, he was still concealed within it. Only to see that at this moment, the constellation transformed into a river of darkness that gushed towards Qin Wentian from all directions. Qin Wentian stood proudly in the sky. Destructive air currents swirled around him and swept towards the river of darkness. Shadows of Dark Shadow Sovereigns appeared and attacked Qin Wentian at the same time. Boom! Qin Wentian took a step forward, and a force that could suppress everything bloomed. Qin Wentian seemed to have transformed into a god of war, insufferably arrogant. Destroy! With a roar of rage, all the shadows around him were destroyed. The true body of the Dark Shadow Sovereign appeared as he stabbed out with a long spear that resembled the Netherworld. Black-colored devilish energy revolved around the long spear as a black vortex manifested, wanting to devour Qin Wentian within. The size of this vortex was so great that it could instantly devour 100 people. Qin Wentian inclined his head slightly. He could see the cold and gloomy eyes of the Dark Shadow Sovereign. A terrifying light enveloped his body and he was like a fiend god. With a roar of rage, he blasted out with his palms, manifesting numerous heaven-suppressing palm imprints at the same time. At this instant, one could see boundless destructive tempests flowing towards the vortex of darkness, frenziedly clashing with each other. Rumbling sounds of destruction shook the heavens and earth. The Dark Shadow Sovereign roared in rage again and again. However, Qin Wentian took a step forward and directly entered the vortex. Many shadows appeared at the same time as the Dark Shadow Sovereign launched another attack. His feet stomped on the ground and his palms blasted the sky. In all directions, streams of destructive light brushed past, even more resplendent than the stars. Soft sounds rang out. The Dark Shadow Sovereign felt his internal organs shattering from the pressure. He retreated explosively only to see Qin Wentian snorting coldly. He grabbed out with his hand as a boundless destructive might envelop the Dark Shadow Sovereign, trapping him within the gigantic palm imprint. Qin Wentian, your time of death will not be far. The Dark Shadow Sovereign understood that there was no hope of survival. He let out a roar of rage. The Dark Shadow Sovereign would definitely kill him. Destroy. Qin Wenqian's palms slammed down. Sizzling sounds rang out as boundless destructive light directly drilled into the Dark Shadow Sovereign's body, tearing it apart. Many interspatial rings flew out from his body, but with a wave of his hand, Qin Wenqian kept all of them into his interspatial pouch. The Dark Shadow Sovereign and the Star River Lord of the Star River Association were both extremely wealthy, right? After killing the two supreme experts, Qin Wenqian waved his hands as the constellation in the dream world vanished. In an instant, the entire space returned to a state of tranquility, as though nothing had happened at all. In the Star River Association, numerous gazes were focused on Qin Wenqian. That magnificent silhouette still stood proudly in the air. However, the Star River Lord and the Dark Shadow Sovereign had already vanished forever. This caused the hearts of everyone in the Star River Association to tremble violently. Another two supreme experts of Grand Xia had fallen. Not only that, these two were true experts who were hidden in the shadows, and were even stronger compared to the ascendants of Grand Xia on the surface. However, no one could obstruct this supreme genius who unified Grand Xia. He wanted to unify Grand Xia, forcing all the ascendants to submit to him. No one dared to defy his orders. He wanted the Star River Association to have no way to establish a foothold in Grand Xia. Similarly, no one in Grand Xia dared to defy his orders. Even the Star River Lord and the Dark Shadow Sovereign of the Star River Association were killed without mercy. They were forcefully wiped out by Qin Wenqian. At this moment, Qin Wenqian's gaze swept over the members of the Star River Association. His cold voice rang out once more, "From today onwards, I want the Star River Association to cease to exist in Grand Xia." Scram! As the sound of Qin Wenqian's voice faded, the members of the Star River Association dispersed, leaving this place. The Star River Lord and the Dark Shadow Sovereign had already died in the hands of Qin Wenqian. What else could they do? Fighting against Qin Wenqian was simply courting death. Some of the upper echelons of the Star River Association coldly glanced at Qin Wenqian before leaving with reluctance. Their eyes flickered with killing intent. When they reported this to their superiors, Qin Wenqian would die without a doubt. Qin Wenqian would pay a price for his actions today. Qin Wenqian left and returned to the royal palace of Grand Xia. But soon after, another commotion occurred in Grand Xia. Hundreds of branches of the Star River Association were uprooted and completely destroyed. However, they didn't kill anyone, they just didn't allow the Star River Association to establish a foothold in Grand Xia. Only now did the people of Grand Xia realize how terrifying the power of the Star River Association was. The deeds of the Star River Association and the Dark Shadow Sovereign also surfaced, shocking everyone. Even the upper echelons of Grand Xia easily neglected the existence of the Star River Association, let alone ordinary people. This low-profile and mysterious power was actually so vast and tyrannical. Many people had died because they offended them. The people of Grand Xia couldn't help but to applaud Qin Wenqian's decision. The resolution of the ruler of Grand Xia was truly something ordinary people wouldn't be able to match up to. After this matter, Qin Wenqian quietly cultivated in Grand Xia, no longer interfering with external affairs. He entered a state of closed-door seclusion. Although he had already stepped into the celestial phenomenon realm, Qin Wenqian still had many things he wanted to do. Condensing his fifth astral soul, cultivating the fiend god heavenly suppression art, comprehending offensive innate techniques, etc. As for Grand Xia, the Star River Association had already been uprooted. The authority of Grand Xia was also stable. At the very least, there was no one or major power that could shake the prestige of the Grand Xia Empire. Naturally, Qin Wenqian's philosophy was to nurture talents for Grand Xia, allowing Grand Xia to prosper and grow stronger. He didn't care about maintaining his authority. With such a philosophy, he believed that as long as time passed, Grand Xia would only grow stronger and stronger. Because of Qin Wentian's existence, in the royal sacred region far away from Grand Xia, two transcendent powers were currently in conflict. One of the transcendent powers was none other than the hegemon of the Grand Xia Empire, the Royal Sacred Sect. The Royal Sacred Sect had governed Grand Xia for tens of thousands of years and was incomparably powerful. But recently, the Royal Sacred Region encountered an unprecedented provocation. Qin Wentian domineeringly killed Xia Sheng in the Royal Sacred Sect and left safely. Because of this, the people of the Royal Sacred Sect couldn't swallow this humiliation. Hence, the grand wedding of Qin Wentian happened in Chu. However, that day was the darkest day in the history of the Royal Sacred Sect. All the experts of the Royal Sacred Sect who went there, including high-stage celestial phenomenon ascendants, didn't return alive. Such a matter had never happened before in the history of the Royal Sacred Sect. If this matter was circulated to the Royal Sacred Region, it was unknown how intense the waves of commotion it would cause. Because the location of the incident was in Chu, the distance was simply too far. Hence, the transcendent powers of the Royal Sacred Region didn't know of this. However, in the internal department of the Royal Sacred Sect, this matter had already caused great waves of commotion. During these days, many people came to pay their respects to the Sacred Emperor outside the Sacred Royal Hall, but the Sacred Emperor had yet to manifest his will. Until today, outside the Sacred Royal Hall, an incomparably powerful fluctuation could be felt. After which, a silhouette appeared in and out of existence, shining with a resplendent light. We pay our respects to the Sacred Emperor. Everyone knelt down. What's the matter? A voice drifted out from that Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian held his grand wedding in Chu. The experts of my Royal Sacred Sect who went there were all killed. A voice trembled, causing a terrifying might to permeate the air. The Sacred Emperor coldly continued, I've already said that the matter back then will end here. Who told you guys to take revenge? Sacred Emperor, we have to avenge the humiliation we suffered back then. This place is the Royal Sacred Region. Someone inclined his head as he spoke. What do you guys know? Frogs at the bottom of a well. The Sacred Emperor coldly replied. The Medicine Sovereign is already on the same level as me. As the sound of his voice faded, the experts of the Royal Sacred Sect all trembled violently. This news to them was like a thunderbolt from the blue. The Royal Sacred Sect had always been the hegemon of the Royal Sacred Region. Why? Because their Sacred Emperor was unrivaled in the Royal Sacred Region, a legendary existence. And now, the Sacred Emperor was telling them that the Medicine Sovereign was also an expert of the same level. They finally understood why that undying old man didn't die every time his lifespan was about to end, and why the Medicine Sovereign dared to go to the Royal Sacred Sect to protect Qin Wentian. Initially, they thought it was because of the Medicine Sovereign's qualifications. But from the looks of it now, they were too stupid. In front of a legendary existence, what did qualifications count for? Those below that level didn't even have the qualifications to speak to the Sacred Emperor. Since the Medicine Sovereign dared to appear, it meant that he had already stepped into that level. However, the Medicine Sovereign went overboard this time around. The Royal Sacred Region is still the world of the Royal Sacred Sect. Since he dares to do this, you guys go and kill Qin Wentian. If the Medicine Sovereign interferes again, report back to me. The Sacred Emperor's voice was ice cold. He initially didn't want to bother with the matters here, but he didn't expect such a twist to occur. But since this is the case, so what if a junior has outstanding talent? We obey the Sacred Emperor's command. The eyes of everyone flickered with sharpness as they obeyed. Chapter 693. Within the sacred royal city, there was a vast stretch of ancient palaces. This place had countless years of history, even longer compared to the Royal Sacred Sect. This vast ancient hall had witnessed the rise and fall of the major powers of the Royal Sacred Region. In fact, even before this world was known as the Royal Sacred Region, this hall had already existed. When the first-generation sacred emperor of the Royal Sacred Sect ruled the world, the name of the Royal Sacred Region was changed to the Royal Sacred Region. Countless major powers in this region had changed, but only this ancient hall remained unchanged. Even the first-generation sacred emperor of the Royal Sacred Sect silently approved of its existence, not daring to destroy it. This place was none other than the headquarters of the Star River Association in the Royal Sacred Region. Today, there were people from the Grand Xia branch who returned with a piece of news. All the branches of the Star River Association in Grand Xia had been destroyed. Qin Wentian, who unified Grand Xia, didn't permit the existence of the Star River Association within the borders of Grand Xia. When this news spread out, the shock and anger of the experts of the Star River Association was even more intense compared to the Royal Sacred Sect. How many years had it been? The Star River Association had infiltrated every inch of land under the heavens. In any large city, they would set up a branch of the Star River Association. This incomparably secretive organization operated day and night, and had the most powerful information network in the Royal Sacred Region. They were able to see through everything in the Royal Sacred Region. For every outstanding character, how strong they were, what level their talent was at, how strong their background was. Unless it was extremely secretive, nothing could be hidden from the eyes of the Star River Association. With regards to the information about Qin Wentian, the Star River Association had made many changes. Qin Wentian, whose name shook the entire Royal Sacred Region and who became the overlord of Grand Xia, had long since become a character that the Star River Association paid close attention to. Right now, the information about him was recorded in a transparent scroll in the headquarters of the Star River Association. In the headquarters of the Star River Association, only those characters who stood at the pinnacle of the Grand Xia Empire would be recorded in a transparent scroll. For example, the Sacred Emperor of the Royal Sacred Sect, the various vice-sect leaders, the Medicine Sovereign, the leaders of the 9 great sects, etc. Right now, the scroll that recorded Qin Wentian was the same as them. From this, one could see how much importance the Star River Association placed on Qin Wentian. At this moment, in the headquarters of the Star River Association, there was a person currently flipping through the information regarding Qin Wentian. From what happened in Heaven's Wall City, to the conflict between him and Murin, to the assassination attempt by the Dark Shadow Sovereign, it was very easy to tell that Qin Wentian didn't have a good impression of the Star River Association. As for why Qin Wentian wanted to uproot the Star River Association in Grand Xia, it was very easy to understand. The records of Qin Wentian's strength were also very detailed. It even included the fact that he could transform into a rock with the demonic divinity sacrificial rite and use the immortal vanquishing sword. Only one column was rather vague, and that was about Qin Wentian's background. Qin Wentian grew up in the Qin mansion of Chu Nation's Heaven's Wall City. His adoptive father, Qin Chuan, could be ignored. Qin Wentian's other godfather, the human emperor of Yi country, Yi Qingyun. His wife was the disciple of the medicine sovereign, Mo Qincheng. Qin Wentian's background was unknown. Appendix: during Qin Wentian's wedding in Chu Nation, a mysterious expert appeared. He was a disabled person who raised Qin Wentian. He brought along many masked experts, and his strength is unknown. Appendix: in the Moon Continent, when Qin Wentian slaughtered the Pill Emperor Hall with the demon sword, a mysterious expert appeared and rescued him. As for who it was, it's unknown. It was unknown who taught Qin Wentian the immortal technique and sword art. All of these pointed to the fact that Qin Wentian might have an extraordinary background. However, even the intelligence network of the Star River Association was unable to find out anything. They could only speculate that he might be the orphan of an extremely powerful existence. However, no matter how powerful Qin Wentian's background was, how could he be stronger than the Star River Association? As the Grand Hall Lord of the Star River Association in the Royal Sacred Region, he was sent here by the upper echelons. How could he not know what sort of existence the Star River Association was? How could a mere orphan of an extremely powerful existence dare to provoke them? However, his authority was limited. As the Grand Hall Lord of the Royal Sacred Region, he had a mission to accomplish. Every 100 years, he had to send resources and nurture geniuses to the Royal Sacred Region. This was his responsibility, and the authority he had no way to surpass the Royal Sacred Region. Once he encountered an existence he couldn't defeat in the Royal Sacred Region, it would be extremely troublesome for him. After all, if he reported such a matter to the upper echelons, he, as the Grand Hall Lord, would undoubtedly be doing a bad job. This was also the reason why, although the Star River Association had a transcendent background, they still kept a low profile in the Royal Sacred Region. They wouldn't go out to antagonize others, nor would they fight for the position of the hegemon. Their goal was to complete the mission given to them by the upper echelons. He took out a brush and a piece of paper, after which he wrote a letter. With a wave of his hand, the letter floated outside as he commanded, "Send this letter to Qin Wentian of Grand Xia." "Roger." The person outside replied. After which, the sound of footsteps could be heard. In the Royal Sacred Region, within the Immortal Palace, Di Tian stared at the red-haired old man in front of him. The red-haired old man was panting heavily as he stared at Di Tian. After a long time, the red-haired old man finally laughed uproariously. Good, good. To think that you would be able to defeat all of us in such a short period of time. Go on, let's see what's waiting for you." Di Tian's countenance gleamed with sharpness. Although Qin Wentian had broken through, Di Tian hadn't condensed his constellation yet. His cultivation base was still at the peak of Heavenly Dipper, but Qin Wentian's insights were also his insights. Although he didn't condense his Dreamworld constellation, just the fusion of true intents was already extremely powerful. In addition to his illusory demonic energy, Fiend Transformation Art, Bloodline Protection, and Fiend God Heavenly Suppression Art, he could finally defeat these immortals who had their cultivation bases suppressed. Many thanks for Senior's guidance during these days. If I can obtain the inheritance of the Immortal Palace, I will definitely grant all of you your freedom. Di Tian bowed. Go on. The red-haired old man waved his hands. Di Tian nodded and his silhouette flickered as he flew forward. Everywhere he passed by, there were many immortals who had their cultivation bases suppressed. All of them were smiling at Di Tian. Good fellow, you can do it. You are much stronger compared to this old man back then. A muscular man grinned. The eyes of the dispirited young woman on the lake seemed to have regained some luster. She stared at Di Tian as he silently advanced forward. He has already completed his challenge. Next, she didn't know what would be waiting for him. Di Tian's countenance was like lightning. He continued on his way, traversing a vast distance before he saw a slanted mountain peak in front of him. On that mountain peak, there were two silhouettes. One was sitting while the other was standing. Behind them, there was a simple house. The person sitting on the slanted mountain peak was an old man. His hair was curled up and his robes were tattered. He had a smile on his face as he stared at Di Tian. As for the person standing, it was a cold-looking young man clad in black. His entire body exuded a cold intent, and the eyes he used to stare at Di Tian were sharper than blades, as though they could pierce through Di Tian's soul. What a cold person! Di Tian stared at the cold-looking young man. Among the people he met before, this young man's aura was the coldest, causing people to not dare to get close to him. Come on up. The old man spoke to Di Tian. Di Tian nodded lightly. He slowly walked up, arriving before the old man and the young man. Being able to defeat so many immortals at the peak of Heavenly Dipper, this already proves your immense potential. But if it wasn't for those fellows intentionally going easy on you, you wouldn't have survived until today. The old man narrowed his eyes as he stared at Di Tian. Di Tian nodded, he was very clear about this point. Because, he didn't defeat the buried immortals from the outside world. Instead, He relied on the key given to him by the Xia Emperor to enter. At that time, his strength was far from what it was now. If those immortals wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as flipping their palms. However, to be able to improve at such a godly speed in such a short period of time, it's truly rare. In that case, from now onwards, you will start to comprehend this art. If you can succeed in comprehending it within a year, I will consider it as you passing the test. At that time, you will become the lord of this immortal palace, and at the same time, you will also obtain an unimaginable inheritance. The old man faintly spoke. After which, he waved his hands as both he and the cold-looking young man vanished from sight. In front of Di Tian, a boundlessly vast painting appeared. Countless diagrams and diagrams interweaved within the painting, resembling a painting of the great Tao. Di Tian swept his gaze over the painting. Very swiftly, his eyes felt as though they were about to sink into it. At this moment, a supremely powerful sealing energy gushed forth from the painting, shining brightly as it directly landed on Di Tian. Bang! Di Tian explosively retreated. He closed his eyes and couldn't help but groan in pain. When he opened his eyes again, he actually didn't dare to look at the painting. Earlier, when he glanced at the painting, it was as though he saw an unfathomable sealing ability that could seal everything. Not bad. From the air, the voice of the old man drifted over to Di Tian. I advise you to break through first before you attempt to comprehend it. If not, based on your current strength, I'm afraid you won't be able to endure it. Remember, you only have a year's time. If you fail to comprehend it, I will wipe away all the memories you have after you entered the Immortal Palace. Di Tian's body trembled slightly as his eyes gleamed with a dazzling light. At the same time, in the external world, in the Grand Xia Empire, Qin Wentian, who was currently in closed-door seclusion, suddenly opened his eyes. He inclined his head and stared at the starry skies as his eyes gleamed with sharpness. Sealing a supreme existence. He sealed the immortals in the tomb, sealed the cultivation bases of the immortals, and even sealed the entire Immortal Palace. To that supreme existence, everything can be sealed. Qin Wentian mumbled. He could faintly sense that the lord of this Immortal Palace was definitely an extremely powerful existence and was proficient in sealing. Once he inherited the legacy of the lord of this Immortal Palace, not only would he be able to undo the seals on the immortals, he would also be able to obtain that terrifying sealing inheritance. Di Tian's fifth astral soul must definitely be a sealing-type astral soul. What about my fifth astral soul? Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared at the skies. After which, he closed his eyes again as his perception extended towards the 9 astral rivers in the 9 heavenly layers. The terrifying power of his perception rose unceasingly, transcending the boundaries of the 9 astral rivers. In the blink of an eye, his perception arrived at the 5th heavenly layer, but it didn't stop there. It continued ascending upwards, reaching the 6th heavenly layer. At this moment, Qin Wentian's perception was already feeling extremely unbearable. The shadow of Qin Wentian's perception in the air seemed to be changing shape. After crossing the 6th heavenly layer, I would be able to enter the 7th heavenly layer. This is a huge leap. Qin Wentian's heart was filled with determination. His perception frenziedly surged upwards, allowing the terrifying pressure to bore down on him. Yet, he still managed to protect his perception. Finally, his perception broke through the resplendent astral river, stepping into the 7th heavenly layer. Over here, there was a completely different scene. Chapter 694. Qin Wentian's perception floated about in this boundlessly vast starry space. As he stared at the resplendent constellations, terrifying waves rose up in his heart. Many of the constellations here were different from those in the lower 6th heavenly layer. Not only was the aura exuded by these constellations stronger, it was also because of the uniqueness of these constellations. With a single glance, these constellations gave Qin Wentian an intense visual impact. Is that a gigantic tortoise? Qin Wentian stared at a constellation not far away from him. This was a demonic beast-type constellation. It had the shape of a gigantic tortoise, blotting out the skies and blotting out the sun. It was unknown how vast it was. This gigantic tortoise also had the body of a serpent, exuding an incomparably demonic aura. It was as though there was a pair of eyes staring at him. This isn't a gigantic tortoise, it's a Xuanwu beast. Qin Wentian's heart trembled. If he could form an innate connection with this constellation, he would be able to summon a Xuanwu beast, possessing a terrifying defense. An intense piercing pain shot through his body, causing Qin Wentian's heart to clench. The seventh heavenly layer was a huge leap compared to the sixth heavenly layer. The astral souls condensed from the astral souls would no longer be golden in color, but the pressure here was also extremely strong. Although his perception could allow him to step into the seventh heavenly layer, he couldn't stay here for too long. He had to find the constellation he wanted to form an innate connection with as soon as possible. His perception sped through the starry space. Qin Wentian saw an extremely powerful constellation. This constellation was like a gigantic mountain that spanned across the sky, resembling an ancient divine mountain. It was unknown how heavy it was, but just by sensing it from afar, Qin Wentian felt as though he was about to be crushed by the weight of the divine mountain. Qin Wentian's heart pounded violently, he had an impulse to send his perception over. However, he still managed to restrain himself. His perception moved through the astral river, staring at the incomparably bizarre constellations. He even saw a terrifying vortex that resembled a black hole. Within that vortex, there seemed to be a pair of eyes that could devour everything. There were no other constellations in the surroundings. It was as though in this domain, no other constellations were allowed to exist. If not, the vortex would devour them all into the vortex. Every single constellation contains a terrifying amount of power within. Qin Wentian's heart trembled, but he still continued his search. He hoped that the astral soul he condensed from the astral soul he condensed this time around would be compatible with the cultivation art he cultivated. Only then would he be able to unleash the full potential of his astral soul and cultivation art. Qin Wentian mainly cultivated two great immortal arts, the Fiend God Suppression Art and the Fiend God Body Refinement Art. There was no need to doubt the power of these two immortal arts. Their offensive power was extremely terrifying, and the Immortal Devil Body Refining Art could even create a real immortal devil body. Using one's physical body to fight against immortal devils, how terrifying was that? Astral souls could amplify a stellar martial cultivator's attacks, but ultimately, it was for the sake of a stellar martial cultivator's cultivation. Qin Wentian naturally understood what choice he should make. The pressure on his perception grew stronger and stronger. Qin Wentian was still attempting to ascend upwards. Every time a constellation appeared in his vision, it would be so powerful that it caused Qin Wentian's heart to palpitate. However, he endured it all. His perception was on the verge of collapsing. If he failed this time around, he could only wait for the next chance to ascend to the 9 heavenly layers. However, he still didn't give up. In a place extremely far away from him, a beam of dazzling astral light cascaded downwards. Faintly, a terrifying might permeated the air, causing Qin Wentian's perception to grow even more illusory. However, at this moment, the illusory figure formed from his perception was actually staring in a certain direction. Boundless astral light cascaded down onto the illusory perception. That was a heaven-suppressing silhouette that stood towering in the skies. This constellation actually faintly interweaved into the shape of a human, standing in the air, suppressing the heavens. Every part of its body flickered with a dazzling runic light, as though it was fluttering unceasingly, exuding an extremely terrifying aura. The surroundings of this human-shaped constellation were boundlessly vast, as though it didn't permit the existence of others of the same kind. Just by being there, it would be an existence that could suppress the starry space. Heaven-suppressing Fiend God Art, Suppression, Fiend God Body Refinement, Supremely Strong Physique. This constellation should be suitable for me. Qin Wentian forcibly suppressed the urge to disperse his perception as he drifted towards the constellation. The closer he got, the stronger the suppression energy radiating from the constellation. This continued until Qin Wentian's perception also sensed a similar aura. At this instant, his perception directly vanished from its original location, traversing a boundless distance, directly landing on the constellation. At this instant, in the seventh heavenly layer of the 9 heavenly layers, numerous beams of astral light traversed a boundless distance, cascading downwards onto the silhouette in the royal palace of Grand Xiao. That silhouette trembled violently, but he still maintained his clarity of mind, borrowing the astral light to condense his astral soul. Something major happened in the royal sacred region. This matter was caused by a piece of news. This news soon shocked the entire world, causing a huge commotion in the royal sacred region. This news originated from the hegemon of the royal sacred region, the royal sacred sect. The royal sacred sect announced to the world that Qin Wentian had repeatedly offended their prestige. Hence, the royal sacred sect decided to issue a kill order, wanting to kill Qin Wentian. As a character of the royal sacred region, the top ranker of the immortal martial realm, Qin Wentian, the royal sacred sect actually issued a kill order against him. One could very well imagine how intense the commotion would be. That was the hegemon of the royal sacred region, the royal sacred sect. They actually issued a kill order against a junior of the younger generation. This was simply an unimaginable matter. In these tens of thousands of years, only Qin Wentian had enjoyed such treatment. Finally, the royal sacred sect still wants to act against Qin Wentian. Back then when Qin died, Qin Wentian had already formed a grudge with the royal sacred sect. That fellow is truly arrogant and powerful enough, causing the royal sacred sect to go to war for him. However, if the hegemon of the world wants to kill him, how can Qin Wentian survive? Many mused in their hearts. Most probably, this era-suppressing genius of the royal sacred region was about to fall. This time around, the royal sacred sect had truly made up their minds. They announced to the world that if there was a young man below 100 years of age who could kill Qin Wentian, he or she would be able to directly enter the royal sacred sect and become a disciple of the core faction. As for the others who managed to kill Qin Wentian, they would also be rewarded with a peak-tier celestial phenomenon cultivation art and a high-grade 5th-ranked divine weapon. At the same time, the royal sacred sect also announced the location of Qin Wentian's current location. Qin Wentian was currently residing in Grand Xia, the desolate land of the royal sacred region. How could such news not cause shock and frenzy? Naturally, there were also people who speculated. Since the royal sacred sect knew the location of Qin Wentian, why didn't they directly kill their way over to kill Qin Wentian but chose to announce this to the world instead? What was the royal sacred sect doing this for? The royal sacred sect's decision to kill Qin Wentian was a command given by the sacred emperor himself. Now that they knew the medicine sovereign had broken through to the sacred emperor realm, they knew that there was another layer of meaning behind their decision to kill Qin Wentian. They wanted to see the medicine sovereign's determination when facing the sacred emperor and see if he would still disobey the sacred emperor's order and protect Qin Wentian. They wanted to tell the world who the hegemon of this region was. They wanted to see the attitude of the medicine sovereign. What would he do? If the medicine sovereign really wanted to protect Qin Wentian, it was fine as well. The sacred emperor was their backing, and rather than suffering the revenge of the medicine sovereign after killing Qin Wentian, they would rather choose to see the medicine sovereign's attitude and determination first. By doing so, they could reduce unnecessary losses. A terrifying tempest was currently gushing towards Grand Xia from the royal sacred region. Many experts of the royal sacred region were heading towards Grand Xia, preparing to kill Qin Wentian. And among these powers heading to Grand Xia, the Grand Shang Empire, the Violet Thunder sect and the D clan were the most active. Undoubtedly, they were the ones who wanted Qin Wentian's life the most. Those from the Battle Sword sect were all worried for Qin Wentian. In fact, when the Emperor of Yi Qingyun, received the order to kill Qin Wentian, he immediately headed towards Grand Xia. Qin Wentian of Grand Xia was immersed in his cultivation until one day, he received a letter from the royal sacred region. This letter was written by the chief hall lord of the Star River Association, and the contents of the letter caused Qin Wentian to feel fear in his heart. He had already guessed that the power of the Star River Association wasn't limited to Grand Xia. However, he didn't expect that the power of the Star River Association didn't only originate from the royal sacred region. Its history was even longer compared to the royal sacred sect. Not only that, it originated from outside the royal sacred region. The Star River Association in the royal sacred region was merely the tip of the iceberg. The content of the letter was to invite him to join the Star River Association. As long as he nodded his head in agreement, the Star River Association would be willing to send him out of the royal sacred region and nurture him in the outside world. If that was the case, they would naturally let bygones be bygones. But if he wasn't willing to accept, he would have to make a public apology and release the restrictions placed on the Star River Association in Grand Xia. However, regardless of which condition it was, Qin Wentian wasn't willing to accept it. He also replied with a simple sentence, "This matter ends here." He would expel the Star River Association from Grand Xia and forget about this matter. All grudges of the past would be written off with a single stroke. However, Qin Wentian felt that the other party most probably wouldn't accept it. Not long after the letter was sent out, the Battle Sword sect sent news to the world. The Royal Sacred Sect had issued a kill order, wanting to kill Qin Wentian. After which, Yi Qingyun arrived at Grand Xia. In the royal palace, Qin Wentian and Yi Qingyun were strolling on the stone steps when Yi Qingyun spoke, "Wentian, it's better for you to leave the royal sacred region." This time around, the royal sacred sect came with such a domineering aura, they're determined to kill you. I can contact the Immortal Martial Realm, and as long as you agree, I can get the envoys to send you out. Qin Wentian's eyes stared straight ahead, he didn't reply immediately. Leaving the royal sacred region was something that would happen sooner or later. He wanted to pursue the strongest cultivation realm and pursue his origins. He had to leave this place no matter what. But was he really going to abandon everything and flee with his tail between his legs? The royal sacred sect has finally issued a kill order for me. Seems like the sacred emperor has already agreed to it. Qin Wentian mumbled. Back then at his wedding in Chu, the experts from the royal sacred sect had all been killed. The royal sacred sect would definitely report this matter to the royal sacred sect. If they wanted to kill him again, they would have to obtain the approval of the sacred emperor first. Chapter 695. The medicine sovereign had already broken through to the sacred emperor realm. In the past, only a few people knew of this news, and the sacred emperor of the royal sacred sect was one of them. Now that he informed the upper echelons of the royal sacred sect, those people naturally knew of this as well. However, Yi Qingyun and Qin Wentian didn't know of this. The experts of the royal sacred region also didn't know of this. There were some among them who wanted to kill Qin Wentian to obtain the rewards of the royal sacred sect, while those younger than 100 years old wanted to kill Qin Wentian to become a disciple of the core faction of the royal sacred sect. Qin Wentian had become a stepping stone in the eyes of many. As long as they could kill him, they would at least be able to obtain bountiful rewards. The experts of Grand Shang, Violet Thunder sect, and the Di Shi clan of the royal sacred region had already arrived in an imposing manner, killing their way to Grand Xia. In fact, they didn't even need the royal sacred sect to act personally. They only needed to watch from the shadows, and with a single command, Qin Wentian would die for sure. In the Ginku Empire of Grand Xia, the blazing sun hung high up in the sky as flowers bloomed within the city. Ever since Qin Wentian unified Grand Xia, Ginku was equivalent to the capital city of Grand Xia. There were many geniuses who came to Ginku, wanting to admire the glory of Grand Xia. Outside the majestic imperial palace of Grand Xia, there would be many experts standing there every day. Standing outside the imperial palace, it was as though they could feel the glorious history that Qin Wentian had created. This period of history would definitely leave a heavy mark on Grand Xia. However, at this moment, the sounds of wind and thunder could be heard drifting over from the horizon. The expressions of everyone were strange as they inclined their heads and stared at the sky. The sunlight was so blinding that their hearts trembled violently. Only to see that in the air, a golden-armored warship actually appeared, radiating with a terrifying golden light. On the warship, several experts stood with their hands clasped behind their backs. The sunlight shone down on them, exuding an unexcelled aura, as though they were all supremely powerful existences. Who are they? The hearts of the spectators pounded violently. That golden-armored warship hovered in the airspace above Grand Xia, emitting a resplendent golden light that rivaled the blazing sun. Numerous beams of cold light pierced through the air, staring down from the warship. After which, numerous silhouettes could be seen flying over. On the gigantic warship, there were over 100 experts, and each and every one of them exuded a supremely powerful aura. Why have you all come to my Grand Xia Empire? A voice rang out from the great hall of Grand Xia, permeating the air, causing the hearts of the spectators to tremble. Was this the voice of the Emperor of Grand Xia, Qin Wentian? The warriors on the golden-armored warship lined up in a row, seeming to be divided into different camps. They didn't just come from one force, but from many forces. However, they all had the same goal, to kill Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian, you should be very clear as to why we are here. Today, Grand Xia shall be the place where your bones will be buried. A cold voice rang out, causing the hearts of the spectators to tremble. These unexcelled experts were all here for the sake of killing the Emperor of Grand Xia, Qin Wentian. In the royal palace of Grand Xia, numerous figures soared up into the air, standing at the peak of the royal palace. One of them was clad in white, exuding magnificence through the generations. His eyes were filled with coldness as he coldly spoke, I heard the royal sacred sect has given the order. Killing me will allow you to obtain treasures, and there's even a chance to become a core disciple of the royal sacred sect. All of you are willing to be my lackeys, but I wonder if you can take my life. These people came here on the golden-armored warship with the sole purpose of taking his life. There was no need for Qin Wentian to be courteous at all. Someone who's about to die actually dares to spout such arrogant words. An expert from the Violet Thunder sect shone with the power of lightning as he descended from the skies, exuding a sense of imposingness. Everyone, you are all famous characters, yet you all came here in such a grandiose manner just to deal with a junior. I wonder if you all feel shame. Yi Qingyun stood beside Qin Wentian as he inclined his head and stared at the experts in the air. Yi Qingyun, although you are the human emperor of an ancient country, how can you be compared to my Grand Zhou Empire? My Grand Zhou Empire wants to kill Qin Wentian, yet you want to interfere? Aren't you afraid that your country will be destroyed? An old man from Grand Zhou Empire had a sharp gaze as he stared at Yi Qingyun. Yi Qingyun's countenance didn't change. His long robes fluttered in the wind as he emotionlessly replied, I, Yi Qingyun, have lived for hundreds of years. What I fear the least is threats. Cultivation has no boundaries. If you threaten the people of your country, I'm afraid your Grand Shang Empire will never have a day of peace. If you kill my royal clan, if I, Yi Qingyun, don't die, I will definitely destroy your Grand Shang Empire. In that case, I will kill you first before I destroy your royal clan. That expert coldly spoke. Is that so? I, Yi Qingyun, will remember this sentence. Yi Qingyun stood arrogantly in the air, exuding the might of the human emperor of an ancient country. Those from Grand Shang, the Violet Thunder sect, the Di Shi clan and the royal sacred sect should be here as well. Qin Wentian surveyed the experts in the air as his gaze landed on a young man with an extremely cold expression. This man was extremely famous in the royal sacred region. He was none other than one of the era-suppressing geniuses of the past, Qi Lian, a disciple of the Blood Devil Palace and a member of the Qi clan of the western regions. Qin Wenqian's gaze paused on Qi Lian for an instant as a cold light flickered in his eyes. Beside Qi Lian, there were quite a few young experts. One of them had blood-colored eyes that radiated killing intent. He was none other than Qi Lian's brother, Qi Tai from the Qi clan of the western regions. He was also a disciple of the Blood Devil Palace and was also a disciple of the Blood Devil Palace. His talent was inferior to Qi Lian, but because Qi Lian was over 20 years of age, his cultivation base was stronger. Right now, he was already at the second level of celestial phenomenon and was still within 100 years of age. Qi Tai stepped out and spoke to everyone, please allow me to fight first. As he spoke, he stared at Qin Wenqian. My name is Qi Tai and I'm at the celestial phenomenon realm. I really don't understand why the royal sacred sect would make such a big fuss. Qin Wenqian, do you dare to fight me? Qin Wenqian swept a glance at his opponent, instantly knowing his cultivation base. He still stood at his original location, as though he didn't care about his opponent's existence at all. Fine, since you want to be a lackey, I will grant you your wish. Qin Wenqian nodded as he stared at him. Behind Qi Tai, his astral soul was released as a resplendent constellation manifested. The terrifying constellation was the color of blood, exuding a towering devil might. Numerous terrifying ancient halberds manifested within the constellation, exuding an incomparably powerful killing intent. Bzz. The constellation flashed past, blotting out the sun. Sunlight couldn't shine down and Qin Wenqian felt as though he was in a space of purgatory. Kill. Qi Tai coldly snorted. In an instant, tens of thousands of blood-colored halberds manifested from his constellation as they rained down, stirring up a tempest in the air as rumbling sounds echoed. Blood-colored light circulated around them, containing an unfathomable destructive might. Qin Wenqian lifted his foot and stomped down in the air. A rumbling sound echoed out as a terrifying suppressive might gushed forth, causing the might of the ancient halberds to weaken by several degrees. Golden light flashed as a pair of golden rock wings appeared on Qin Wenqian's back. With a flap of his wings, he resembled a great rock soaring through the skies, moving as fast as lightning. Resplendent astral light shimmered on his golden wings, slicing apart the ancient halberds as though he was a primordial golden-winged great rock. Boom! Devil Qi churned wildly around Qi Tai. With his constellation on his back, he seemed to have transformed into a devil king. Pointing at the incoming Qin Wenqian, he stabbed out with his halberd, refining the void with his blood. Boundless blood-colored halberds slashed out, aiming for Qin Wenqian's golden light. In the center of Qin Wenqian's brows, a pair of demonic eyes blinked. Instantly, Qi Tai only felt the sky changing color. In just an instant, everything seemed to slow down. Qin Wenqian's movements didn't slow down at all. His resplendent wings circulated with a fearsome demonic might, stretching out over 10,000 meters as a resplendent light illuminated the skies, slashing apart the devil halberds and slicing apart Qi Tai's body. The crowd only saw a beam of blood splattering out as the golden rock flickered and returned to his original location. The crowd only saw a bloody wound in the center of Qi Tai's brows, extending downwards as blood gushed out. After which, he fell from the air. How powerful, the energy emanating from those wings is truly terrifying. The spectators all stared at Qin Wenqian. He didn't even release his constellation and was able to kill Qi Tai. This heaven chosen of the royal sacred region must have already stepped into the celestial phenomenon realm. Qi Tai's countenance was incredibly unsightly to behold. When he first rose to fame, Qin Wenqian was still a nameless character. But now, Qin Wenqian had already broken through to celestial phenomenon, gradually pulling away the distance between them and even killing Qi Tai in such a domineering manner. An era-suppressing heaven chosen. It was as though he only existed to serve as a foil to Qin Wenqian. Becoming a core disciple of the royal sacred sect by killing me? Qin Wenqian stared at the spectators in the air as his golden wings shimmered with a resplendent light. He then spoke, "You guys are really thinking too much. Just a power like the royal sacred sect, even if you send their core disciples over to kill me, I would still do the same. If it wasn't for the protection of the royal sacred sect back then, Zai Qiu would have already died in my hands, just like Xia Sheng. They should already be considered the most outstanding heavenly dipper sovereigns of the royal sacred sect. How pitiful. A stifling pressure gushed forth. The eyes of the expert controlling the golden battleship flashed with a towering killing intent as he coldly commanded, "Kill him. Whoever dares to act, kill without mercy." Yi Qingyun coldly spoke. "Don't be a scapegoat. These people who came here today are still insufficient." As the sound of Yi Qingyun's voice faded, the silhouettes of several experts appeared. A terrifying army of celestial phenomenon ascendants soared up into the air, and at the same time, several maidens dressed in the same robes appeared. These were none other than the experts from the Medicine Sovereign Valley. Those who wish to kill Qin Wentian are enemies with the Medicine Sovereign Valley. Kill them all. One of the maidens from the Medicine Sovereign Valley coldly commanded. The auras of both parties gushed forth, congregating in the air as a chaotic current of energy echoed out, emitting an ear-piercing screech. Are the Medicine Sovereign Valley and Yi Qingyun determined to obstruct our royal sacred sect's plans? That expert on the golden battleship coldly spoke. The reason they came here today was merely to probe the strength of the Medicine Sovereign Valley. If the Medicine Sovereign Valley retreated, they would directly kill Qin Wentian. But from the looks of it now, the attitude of the Medicine Sovereign Valley was extremely unyielding, wanting to protect Qin Wentian no matter what. What they didn't expect was that the human emperor of Yi Qingyun, actually dared to participate in this matter. How impudent! This was a direct provocation to their position as the hegemon of the royal sacred sect. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.